ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Loss of Lieutenant. Tonight, I'm your host, Jacob, and I am joined by Josh
Hello.
and Nick.
Hello.
How are we, guys?
Pretty good.
Doing well.
It has been a minute. I know that we want to really get into this episode, but just quick sentence on what you've been up to. Have you been up to much since BCB? Not BCB, Border Bash, because you both went.
Yes, I started a new army. I bought into Onyx and on the side bought some Morats, and then played Onyx and went, it feels like I'm trying to build Brahma lists with extra steps. Tried Morats and it clicks. I can see a turn. Like I can see the full turn with Morats on the table.
Morats have fucked for a very long time.
Morats just sort of seem very plug and play. So
yeah, you definitely play Onyx Contact Force for the love of it, for their wanting to take a bunch of Umbras. But that seems to be a theme after Border Bash, because starting a new army is also what you've been doing, Josh, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Torchlight and trying my hardest, my darndest to get them painted. They are still primed, everybody. They are still primed.
Yeah.
My main gripe is that another Torchlight, well, another player has who is a prolific in our meta, who is a prolific picker-upper of factions, has and ADHD. Hyper focus, we won't name names, has also picked up Torchlight and is also a very good and very fast painter, and has painted them in basically the exact color scheme that I wanted to paint mine in. So
I need is it who I'm thinking of? Should I be thinking of the right person?
I don't know. I don't really care. It's probably the only person who has painted Torchlight minis, basically. And so so I'm currently back on the drawing board of my paint scheme for them. I've also been looking at the mission selection for BCB, and I do this every year. I do it every year for BCB. The 3 years that I've been around for BCB, and I've gone, oh man, I really like JSA in these missions. So there is a distinct possibility that Torchlight will get the shaft, and I will just play my beloved Weebs again, or Caledonia, because Caledonia also looks quite good.
Is it just the fact that you see specialist on a bike and you're like, ooh, button pressing on a bike?
No, there are lots of things that I'm not going to go into it because that's not the focus of this episode. So
fair enough.
I love JSA. Done. Yeah, what about you, Jacob?
I really want. I've been to a lot of BCBs, and I don't think I've necessarily done well at any of them. There's been probably some top 10s and mids and whatever. So this year I want to try really hard to potentially podium. Hopefully that's a lofty enough goal. So I've been practicing really hard with the Bakun and trying to push past what I was trying to do before, which is play a whole bunch of the observance models, because in the tournament play they have a lot of counterplay. So stretching out more to going back to the Riot Girls, taking a look at some of the other tricks they have. Probably should be trying to use the zeros a little bit more, but this particular mission lineup, I think, for BCB doesn't need them as much as maybe some other ones, although there is still supremacy and things like that. So
I think they work really well in supply rate, but that's once again that's not the focus of this episode. So
so it's going well. Other than I think my very first try, I haven't lost a game so far. I've either won or drawn, so it's going okay so far. But I need to make sure that I stretch my legs, play a bunch of people who are playing different armies to really sort of test out the how well I know Bakunin.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Right, so this episode is something that we haven't done for a while. It's a tier list episode, and today we are looking at what I'm going to dub Line Infantry. Yes, which is a combination of line, the category of line troop, and the classification of line light infantry.
So before we jump into that,
before we get into that, yes.
Yeah.
Let's announce a new challenge.
To start with, yes. So our first custom mission challenge went so well in 23 that we decided to bring it back. And fingers crossed, I'm hoping we can make this an annual thing.
I think we can. And
yeah, yes. I don't think you have to hope, Nick. It's a good idea. It will be an annual thing.
It's going to be an annual thing, and also it was a resounding success. Please see two missions in the in the current season that
last launch and
I'm gonna say evac was also inspired by Dante's mission.
Last launch, the custom mission got split into two missions.
That's right. Yeah.
In the ITS. Yeah. So.
Isn't he name dropped in it?
Not in evac.
But he's name dropped
only for last launch. Yeah. So, anyhow, changes this year for the custom mission challenge, allowing listeners to submit up to 2 custom missions each. Additionally, if you submitted a mission last year and you have an update to that, please feel free to submit the update, and I will include that. It won't count towards your 2 limit. I'd also like to try to split the missions. Please let us know if you intend the mission to be a competitive mission or a narrative mission. That way I can have 2 separate areas where if people want to look up a nice, fluffy, beer and pretzels fun narrative mission, great, we've got those. If they want to look up stuff to slot into a tournament, then we've got the competitive side.
Looking at Rob Cantrell can... Rob Shepard can resubmit his defend mission. You deploy in a circle in the middle.
Yeah, there were several people last year who sent in multiple missions, and because I didn't have charge of it, they were still restricted to 1. But this year, up to 2. It may take me a little bit longer to process all of them, but I'd rather cast the net wider and get more information in there. So once the challenge ends, we'll format, edit, and compile them into a single document and distribute it to the wider Infinity community. Additionally, we'll plan to pick our favorites and run a custom mission tournament in Melbourne sometime, hopefully early next year. We'll see how it fits in the calendar. What would be custom missions without some playtesting? For the second part of this quarter's challenge, we want to hear about one of your experiences playing a custom mission. Can be a new custom mission, an older custom mission, take your pick. What interesting mechanics did you like? What interesting mechanics did you break? Let us know how it went and how the custom mission affected your playstyle. Please submit your entries to lossoflieutenant@gmail.com. And as usual, 1 random winner from each challenge will be selected at the end to receive correct me if I'm wrong on this one, a small box of their choice. Yes.
So for anyone listening who's wondering what we mean by a small box, we're talking about something like the Zeros that recently came out. I mean, if you want a blister, you can feel free to ask for a blister or something like that. So we're not looking at like a tag or the reinforcement boxes or the action packs.
Yeah, our budget is not huge.
Yeah,
not endless.
If we get a bunch of Patreons and we're rolling in it, fuck it, we'll do it. But until then.
All right.
So what's coming up soon?
So we've got a couple of events on the radar for us here. First is we have a tradition. I think I've said this every single time we've announced a road to. We have a tradition here in Victoria, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, to host when a 2-day tournament is coming up, to host a 1-day tournament that is a small snapshot of the 2-dayer. So we call these our Road 2s. So our first mission on our radar at the moment is the Road to BCB. BCB being Burn City Brawl, which will be at the 3rd of August at Gaming Arena in Coburg, Victoria. It'll be 300 points. The missions taken from the BCB lineup will be Supply Raid, which is the custom mission, Highly Classified, and Looting and Sabotaging. We will be, for the first time ever in Infinity in Melbourne, we'll be using Best Coast pairings. So make sure you guys, we've popped up on the Best Coast pairings event pages. So make sure you guys check. Anyone who's interested in attending checks out Best Coast pairings and makes an account. Then we have Burn City Brawl, which we've announced at the last 2 episodes as well. The 7th and 8th of September, also at Gaming Arena in Coburg, Victoria. 300 points, 5 missions, Supply Raid, Highly Classified, Decapitation, Looting and Sabotaging, and Supremacy. And we have a Facebook event for more details. If anyone out there has any events that they want us to plug, feel free to send them through to our emails. We will drop them into episodes and pop them up on our socials as well.
Yeah, doesn't matter if you're international or wherever. Right, we've announced things. We announced one a few times in like Sweden, US, New Zealand, anywhere. If you're starting something up, let us know. Right, there's nothing to it. Right, just let us know with enough time to get an episode out, and we'll announce it.
Absolutely.
Hell, I think if someone was like, "Hey, I have a tournament I'd like you to announce," we'd probably be like, "Shit, we need to think of an episode right now to make sure we get this guy's tournament out there."
We can do that.
Yeah. Speaking of getting episodes out, with Burn City Brawl coming up and being one of the biggest tournaments that we host here in Melbourne, as another tradition that comes with big tournaments is us here at Lost Lieutenant wanting to do a Pimp My List episode. So we announced a while ago that we were looking for lists for pimping for Burn City Brawl. As Josh mentioned, the missions Supply Raid, Highly Classified, Decapitation, Looting, Sabotage, and Supremacy. So please submit your lists to lostlieutenant@gmail.com. We will give priority to pimping our lists that come from our patrons. However, we will, if we don't have enough from the patrons, we're more than
we'll
happy
fit
to
as
go
many
into
as we
anyone's.
can into a reasonable hour.
We will. Right,
2 hours.
If we get inundated, though, right, we may have to miss you. I don't think we've ever gotten quite that far yet.
I think the last time that happened, we split it into 2 episodes.
Yeah, no, you're right. We did.
First episode. First episode was a guest appearance as a pimper last year. So
anyhow, get those in by the 9th of August so that we have time to review them and make an episode in a timely manner before BCB.
Yep. So you can actually do the changes if you need them, and they're not so finely tuned, which is what we find when we do Pimp My Lists a bit later. They tend to be a bit more finely tuned for people. So.
It's worked before. I remember one of our local guys. We did a Pimp My List, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's a really good idea." And like, I think one of his lists is like, I completely changed because of what you guys said.
Yeah.
And it's like, my list is better. So we're not too bad at it after all these years.
We've had some wins, yes. All right. The meat of the episode. Go back to your spiel, please, Jacob.
Yes. Okay. So this is a
next slide.
Line Infantry Tier List episodes. We're going to go through all of the quote-unquote Line Infantry in Infinity and rank them in S, A, B, C, F, and a mystery I'll reveal later, the WBZ ranking.
So, Line Infantry isn't usually a term used in Infinity. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned slightly earlier, if you go onto the Infinity app and you hit categories, there's Line Trooper. And if you take a look, I think it's either classifications or you look at the very side of all the profiles, they'll say LI, HI, things like that. And the one that we're kind of looking at today would be Line Infantry. However, if you go onto the Infinity Army app and you press either the classification or the characteristics, you'll notice that, not characteristics, type. It's a type. That's what it is. It's type.
It's under classification for line troops.
Classification.
Sorry, classification and type. If you click the line troop classification, or you do the light infantry type, you'll notice that some strange things come up. A good example is on a lot of the vanilla factions, the trip hammer, because of the pilot, counts as line infantry. But there's also things like fiddler pops up. There's other
Her
units
jackbots count as line infantry.
Sorry?
Her jackbots
count as line infantry.
Yeah.
Or as line troops. Yeah.
So a better example might be something like the Yan Hao or the Shangji in Eugene, right? Clearly not something that the saying line infantry would invoke, right? Those two units, but they pop up. But the other thing is that some units that you would typically consider as line infantry don't pop up. The best example I have is the moderators. Moderators are, and we'll go into why this is important later, they're a prolific unit, especially in Bakuna, but they count as a garrison troop. Right?
Garrison is similar to light infantry.
No, I understand, but so this is why we're explaining it up top, is that there's not one definition that we can go, you click this button and then there's all the units that you're going to go through. It just doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah.
So what we mean by line infantry is the units that either when you're playing the actual game, or in some cases sort of fluff-wise are supposed to be the backbone of the army, either vanilla or sectorial. When we go further into this, we're not going to consider troops. We're not going to consider units that are irregular. So we'll get into them later, but things like the Morlocks are, I think, count as line troops.
So do buckets of cum.
Yeah. The Coom troopers, right, count as line troops as well. So we're not going to include those in this list. And the other way of, I guess, sort of easily identifying them is two things. And Nick, I'm glad you pointed this one out, because it's actually a really good way of actually identifying most of the troops we're talking about. The first one is the one I put down, which is they generally have probably, I'd say, 4+ availability.
Yep. Up to total.
Up to total. And the other one, which is really good you pointed out, Nick, is they're almost always going to be a troop that have the option of taking a comlink.
Almost always.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when we go through it, there's obviously going to be exceptions to the rules. And they're also, if you take a look at the fire team charts, they tend to be the ones that might have like their own like core fire team. They're the ones that, if nothing else, are the only core fire team in a sectorial.
So they're usually also the ones that have the Harrisser core but don't have the duo option.
Yeah.
So what we're sort of saying is that Jacob has made up a term and has defined this term and has made up what units go into this term, and then we're just ranking those.
Yeah, but look, it'll make sense.
It makes sense. It does make.
When all of our listeners, we will post the link to this line infantry template in the episode description. Right, it'll make sense when you take a look at it and once you watch the stream of this.
Yep. So feel free to use the template later on. Let us know what your opinions are. Post it. Post a link to your opinions in the comments, or toss it up on our Discord.
Absolutely.
Yeah, use them to tell us how bad our takes are.
Well, they're usually pretty bad, so let's move into it. What's our first
the only
faction?
other thing is when we're going through this, we are going to consider how good these troops are in both their vanilla army as well as their sectorials, because there are obviously some that shine incredibly well in their sectorial, some that shine really well in vanilla, vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So our
right.
first,
On to it.
our first faction
Nomads.
is Nomads, and our first
Yes.
Nomad trooper is the Corregidor Alguacile. You're a resident Nomad player, Jacob. So
I am.
you want to have a talk about some of the Alguaciles?
Yeah. So these guys are pretty close to about as basic as you can get it.
Yep.
They are about the base BS, Fizz, Whip, armor. Obviously, they have AVA total. I'm pretty sure it'll be the same AVA when you get to Corregidor itself. They have the normal thing of they have paramedic, forward observer, hacker, they've got a couple of extra support weapons here. Comlink Lieutenant. They are, in all honesty, pretty much average. Right. And as far as I'm concerned, compared to some other line infantry, I would probably say that average is about C tier. They do have the Alguacil does have a couple of disadvantages in the fact that its lieutenant takes up a SWIC. Actually, that's probably the most part of it, is that the lieutenant does take up a SWC, right? So they can't be used for that. They can't be used for like hiding anything, but they also just don't do anything. That they're just so outshined by every other line infantry that we're going to cover that I couldn't put them any higher than like lowish tier.
Like I ranked them as C as well, and with the reasoning that similar to yours, they're no frills at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
I see them as the absolute baseline for line infantry stats.
I would say that
with
that one SWIC lieutenant pulls them down just a little bit, because most other line infantry, their lieutenant is just no SWIC, exactly the same. Well, lieutenant, and exactly the same points as they normally are. So that's why I'm saying like they're probably just a little bit worse than average, but and only because of that lieutenant option.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, someone inform me, because I'm going to ask the question rather than correct me if I'm wrong. Did we use the the sectorial profiles, or the vanilla one?
All the profiles we have should be the sectoral for the home sectoral of each of the types. I think one of the very last ones with the Varangians may be an exception, but they should all be their home sectoral. So having the highest AVA and the best options.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, because most of the time these line troop lieutenants tend to have their lieutenant's option discounted in their home sectorial. So to have Corregidor keep that tax between vanilla and sectorial is a bit shit. I don't have anything further to say other than the same thing that you guys did. They are bare bones basic bitches. But you do have access to a missile launcher and a sniper rifle and a HMG if you do need to make a line infantry corps, which is not always a line trooper corps, which is having access to a variety of SWC weapons can be all right.
I think that's the largest amount of SWC weapons I've seen in a profile. The sniper rifle and missile launcher is a lot.
Yeah, and the grenade launcher and the heavy machine gun's only one SWC as well. So, you've got some options there.
Yeah, they've got the basic HMG, some type of sniper rifle, some type of missile launcher, and then that wild card, which is the grenade launcher in this case.
All right, next. Bakunin
Moderators.
Bakunin expert. Can you tell us about
guess I'll keep talking about Bakunin,
yeah.
Okay, so when you take a look at these compared to the Aguasil, stats-wise, they're an ever so slightly worse shot, have less armor but more BTS. When you take a look at their SWC options, they're similar-ish. Like you've still got the grenade launcher there, a sniper rifle. Instead of a HMG, you got a Spitfire, which you could argue all day.
Depends
but
on how you're playing it.
Honestly, on a line infantry, the Spitfire's worse. Right, it's shorter range, and generally, line infantry don't want things to come close to them. They also notably are lacking a full observer profile, which actually can cause some issues when you're trying to make like a list with them as a specialist, because the paramedic adds 2 points to the base profile, whereas in the forward observer generally only adds 1. Which is, when you're getting to the end where you're trying to squeeze out as many points as possible, can be a nightmare. The good thing about the moderators is, firstly, I think even in basic nomads, they have a really high availability. They are very cheap, or they are 1 point cheaper, but again, when you're pushing out a bunch of these guys, right, having that one less point means like 4 points is the difference between, and not having a big special weapon and having a big special weapon. Lieutenant, again, it doesn't cost any SWC, which is standard. It's not necessarily anything special. What is really nice about the moderator is that it has that CC 18 and para CC weapon -6 and the immunity to shock, which helps in missions where you take 4 of the 9-point moderators, one of them's your lieutenant. Your opponent has to try and if your opponent wants to try and get rid of your lieutenant in something like a Fide or a Speculo like attack, they've got to guess which one it might be. And these guys can do okay in combat because of their para CC weapons. I've had these guys beat Fides who just rolled kind of poorly before. And so I feel like I'm not going to say that they're like even like B tier, right? If they were, they'd be the lower part of B tier. But for line infantry, they we'll look and see.
Hold off until we get to mine.
But they
because it sounds like we have different opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you guys talk and so what you think of it. But I think just for the role of a line infantry, especially in Bakunin, especially in Nomads, they do a good job.
Well, I think there's one thing that pushes moderators well above Aguasiles, and it's that 10-point picture profile.
Yes.
And the no SWC lieutenant. I assume Nick's itching to say something, so we'll pass across to you. But that's definitely my thought. The fact that they're a little bit cheaper than Aguasiles, and you have a 10-point picture profile in a faction not lacking repeaters at all, but like having a linked picture somewhere, mate.
It works quite well combined with a baggage bot, because the picture's going to be back in your lines. The baggage bot's probably going to be similar. You can lob and potentially miss, reload if you need to.
Yeah, Nick.
Because I was ranking them lower.
Oh,
but because I see that as just enough close combat ability to be overconfident with them.
Right.
And having that line infantry that is, you look at the lower end of ballistic skill, not as good of choices. The pitcher is something that does bring them back up. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure if that does it.
Here's why the close combat and the para CC weapon is I think a huge advantage to them against those surprise melee attacks. Is on average you're looking at CC 23 martial arts something that's the +3 -3,
Mhm.
right? That -6 on the para CC weapon is enough to, at the very least, bring those close combat monsters down to where they only crit on the 20. And they don't get any additional bonuses to their roll.
Tristan
How
makes
many times? So if they move a Fide into your moderator core,
Mm-hmm.
and then you declare CC, don't they just drop 2 shotgun templates on you?
They certainly do.
Like it's enough to be overconfident with that, because I don't see them ever really getting to use that CC para in a situation, because most things that are going to run for them are going to fork them.
True, but in that case, you might brick a Fide, and that you stop their run completely. For 9 points, they lose 32 points.
Yeah, but hopefully, if a Fide player is running into CC with a moderator, hopefully they're getting more than one template in a template. Trista raises a good point. They're above average just because you're taking them over Aguaciles. They're above Aguaciles just because you're taking them above them in vanilla as your lieutenant option.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Is they'll see more play. Like I said, I'm not saying they're in B tier or anything. I'm just saying they're above the Aguaciles.
I would 100% put them above the Aguaciles.
Oh yeah, I think we're gonna slowly watch the Aguaciles just slowly go back into the C tier.
All right, moderators from Bakuna. Now we have Securitate.
Someone else can start with this one. I have no expertise in these guys.
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it if you want.
Oh, okay, I'll do it. But, well, I think they're Spenno. they're expensive. I like them. The main thing I like about them is they're whip 14. They are veterans, and some of them have repeaters on them. So, and they're repeaters that can't be isolated off them because they're veterans. So, they're real good in whatever Tunguska. I don't know how good they are in vanilla, but also that foyer back's pretty good.
I think in vanilla your balancing isn't worth the extra 4 points over a moderator to get veteran.
Yeah.
But in Tunguska, definitely. They've got the upgrades to their stats in all the right places. They've got BS12, they've got Whip 14. Like I said, they've got models that just happen to be repeaters. And on top of that, they're veteran. So you've got now veteran cheerleaders who can reasonably do objectives from their specialists and provide info war against going into your having them come into your deployment zone.
And they also have the obviously you're a Hackers Land player, so you don't understand the struggle. But they've got a boarding shotgun. They got a template profile mixed in with them. The previous two I don't think have one. So
the moderators
have a boarding shotgun. It's just in a weird. It's just shuffled in a weird place in the list.
Yeah. So having a boarding shotgun with a repeater, pretty good. I really like Securitate. I think they're. I don't know if I put them above moderators, but I like them.
I think their expense makes them a bit difficult as far as line troopers go. They're not hugely expensive compared to like other things that we'll see later on. The veteran's good, especially in terms of them as your lieutenant, making it harder to isolate them, and they do a lot of good work though in Tunguska. That repeater, that repeater can mean that can really help the faction that probably has the Sectoria that probably has the best like single hackers in the game just be even more difficult to like that killer hacker through the Securitate repeater who can be in like fire teams that you would actually move up the field can be just a nightmare to deal with.
It's also a walking repeater that can't be turned off and can't be hacked like a remote.
Yeah.
So you could just walk it, next to their HI and then hack them through your repeater, or even up to their hacker. And the best they can do is spotlight your repeater.
Yeah, and that's one of the good things is that like the Securitate can walk up to someone and there's no I'm going to reset or I'm going to hack your hacker because he moved into my zone of control. You don't get any of those reactions. It's the same. It's a similar sort of thing like any of those hackers with the robots, like a fucking
serious
bit and kiss.
spot or a bit and kiss. Yeah.
I think because of their expense, I put them below the moderators, but above the Aguaseals.
I think they're better than Aguaseals and worse than moderators.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
It's just that cost. Yeah.
I was putting them up in like A tier or low S, just because like for line infantry, like they've got they're expensive they're on the expensive end of line infantry, but all the points go into stuff that you want.
Yeah,
I just don't see it being used too like I just don't think they fit being the backbone as much as the other two.
I just don't.
But I'm willing to split the difference.
All that options for like I don't see them that much in Tunguska lists to really make that much of a judgment call in terms of their use for their faction. Sure, if we're comparing them with each other, then yes, they're up here, right? But in terms of their use for their faction, I just don't see them all that often in Tunguska lists. They just don't end up there. So yes, they're great. They're really cool, but I don't see the actual use case is like all that high. I'm still happy to rank them in the sort of like above the moderator because I think that your point is very good. That they do everything that you want line troops doing. You're spending points in all the right places. So yeah, I'm happy to put them in probably maybe mid to low A.
Okay.
Then if we're going to do that. And if we're going to do that, then I'm going to put moderators in B tier because I think that they deserve to be there.
That works for me.
Excellent. That works for me too. All right. After Securitate, we move on to the Jaguar.
The reveal of what WBZ stands for. So, in a lot of just games, a lot of lists, you'll see that what really forms the backbone of your order pool are your regular war bands. So things like your Jaguar, if you've been looking at the other pictures, there's the Myrmidons there, there's the Varangian Guard, there's plenty of them. And the Jaguars, I see, especially when you go to the Corregidor Sectorial, these are the guys that actually fill out the bulk of your army once you've filled up all your AVA of like flashpole spots and baggage bots and things like that. Then it's Jaguars next. They provide smoke, right? They provide like good forking with like the light shotgun and the chain rifles. They've got the martial arts. They just do a lot of things for your faction as well as being cheap and providing orders. So that's why we've included these guys in the list, especially because there are a lot of warbands throughout Infinity that create the backbone of your list more so than any of the light infantry in that actual faction. However, the problem is because you see them so often, because they do so much work, they needed their own space because I feared that our S and AT would just be full of warbands.
Well, in some ways they perform the same role in that they are regular troops that provide a backbone of orders for the army, but they also serve a very different role in the battlefield where these are your smoke throwers, these are your guys that are getting up and providing a layer of defense or a layer of offense against your opponent versus the core links that are back there forming fire bases and promoting orders to your pool in that way.
I mean, if we I'm just taking a real quick look at, actually, I think this is Tunguska.
Well, while you're looking, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Look, these are perfectly reasonable line troops. They are probably on the not as good a side of warbands. If we were ranking warbands, I wouldn't rank them as highly. The main issue with them is the fact
and I agree with that.
The main issue is they're frenzy and not impetuous, because a free order on something is much better than maybe a free order on a smoke grenade is much better than maybe a free order sometime in the late game. I like Jaguars, but they're just fine, and they do deserve their own little warband zone, and they probably don't need to be part of this discussion. But you're right, they do provide a lot for Corregidor.
The Doggett is nice on them, but I think we'll find that the
warband zone.
Yeah, I think we'll find that the Jaguars slide down a little bit once we get into some of the other warband units that actually form the backbone of, actually form the backbone of armies.
All right.
And that's it for Nomads.
That's it for Nomads. We then move on to Pan-Oceania, starting off with the A of Acontecimento regulars. I'm happy to have a chat about these guys.
Starting off strong, I think, is probably the best thing to say.
The bloody regulars are so good, man.
Fucking hell.
So Sapper multi-sniper. Their hacker has a fast panda and a grenade launcher. Crazy. They're only 10 points for BS12. They're not overpaying for... Who needs armor when you're winning face-to-face rolls?
I mean, whip 13 on a Pano thing is good.
Yeah.
I know it's average for most other units, but for Pano, it's incredible.
No, it's really good for Pano because that's normally their weakness, and to have 12-point specialist who doesn't suffer the faction's regular penalty.
I mean, you take a look, the bloody triangulated fire with the sensor, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incredible unit for, it can... with sensor.
And mine layer. Because why not?
It's an SWC, no SWC mine layer, which is crazy.
Incredible, right? If you wanted to take something from highly classified, there's no reason not to take this dude, right? Because you're I need something with sensor. Boom. Right? If I need to take a sort of unlikely shot, right, against something, right, that I fucked, maybe I didn't, we just all fluffed our dice and I needed to, I'm at neg 6 and I only want to be at neg 3, I just triangulated fire and I'm on 9s. Right? Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, they're very
good. The good
thing...
thing...
The hacker's interesting as well, because normally a hack would be a half SWIC, normally a grenade launcher would be 1 SWIC. Together, they're only 1 SWIC.
With a fast panda.
With the fast panda's so good.
Yeah.
And that goes into taking a look at this, these guys in their sectorial, right? They're good vanilla, right?
They're the only line troop you take in vanilla. You don't take any other line troop in vanilla.
Yeah.
You only take regulars.
That sapper is, if you need it, is good, right? In Thinger, because you get the mimetism from being a sapper, and obviously you get the cover, right? But when you put these guys together in the shock army of a Consentimento, that fast panda combined with the killer hacker Cilia that you've got, there's such a good unit profile. There's just nothing bad about them.
I think it's an easy S for a constant regulars.
No, they might be top. I don't know what'll beat them.
Easy.
I know there's one that's going to compete.
There's
maybe. We'll see.
Definitely one that competes.
Yeah.
Croziers. Not speaking of things that aren't going to compete. Croziers.
I just, in my notes, I have it described as a fusilier who doesn't know when to keep their head down.
Yeah, it seems reasonable.
That's a good description, actually.
Yeah. You still have they are wearing a shirt, which is a benefit over the Condescending regulars who sort of raw dog the world. So they are armor 1. You do have that nice BS12, but you are paying 1. You're paying 1 point for that armor 1. The MSV2 Spitfire is actually quite a nice piece.
Yes.
For only 22 points, you're pretty happy to have that one. The main issue here, I think, that you get from Croziers and what pushes them down is you don't have a lieutenant option. The lieutenant in military orders, the cheapest one's the Knight Commander maybe, or the Teuton.
Probably the Teutonic Knight at 19 points.
And when you don't have a 11.1 from 11-point Crozier that could be your LT, it kind of just makes the faction a little bit more expensive. And I think for that reason, I would push Croziers a little bit further down.
Yeah. The other, I suppose, issue is that they're only in military orders, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah. So we can only compare them in the sectorial, and that in that case we have to compare them to taking the Teutonic Knights, which you get a ton more use out of those guys. Better weapons, better shots, more wounds, martial arts, all that sort of thing. Yeah, the Teutonic Knights obviously cost more, and they're not in this list because they're just not that sort of line infantry unit. But when you take a look at it, when you take a look at someone taking a military orders army, I don't think I've ever even seen one of these guys on the field.
I have.
And we'll get into it more when we get to come out, but I think they don't do well as line infantry.
No.
But like you said, they've got the MSV2 Spitfire. That's excellent to slot into a team of Teutonic Knights or something like that. So they don't fulfill the role as line infantry, but they do have useful profiles that are still in the army.
Yeah, that's probably the best way of putting them, is that they fail as far as being line infantry is concerned.
Are they better than
low C or high F, probably? If we're rated based on their role as line infantry.
Yeah. I think that's a reasonable. Yeah. Okay. So we've got Fusiliers next. They are Croziers who know how to get their heads down.
Yes.
So you're paying 1 point less than the Crozier for 2 less CC, I believe, is the only distinction between the two. And religious, which I think is actually a discount. Is religious a discount?
Religious is usually a discount, but I don't. It's probably only a 1 point at that level. I
mean, Fusiliers are if Alguacils are your basic bitch line troop, then Fusiliers are your basic step up line trooper.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of like your baseline B.
Yeah, I would agree.
In that they've got plenty of good options. They're +1 BS. They're -1 whip, which is not great, but they're your backup for specialists. Honestly, whip 12 for a 0 squick 10-point lieutenant, not bad. I think overall, just they're a nice step up.
I mean, you can just take out the hacking profile.
The only sort of
that just doesn't exist.
Pushback that I would say kind of elevates the Fusilier is the amount of sectorials of which they can be like a 5-man core, a really cheap 5-man core, and excellent at being like an ARO piece. That motherfucker with his goddamn missile launcher. I can't tell you how many times that I've been all the advantages to a firefight, and he's still like, nope, dead. Because
when you neg
BS-15.
6, when you neg 6 a missile, that missile launcher, they're still like, I'm 2 dice on 9s, and you're like, oh shit, okay.
So they're not the greatest, but for the purpose, like they're almost the perfect like we are line infantry. We hold the line right for all the other guys to do their stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that
Right. So I think yeah, B there'll be I think relatively high B.
yeah,
as
they're
it is
certainly
often.
better than moderators.
Yes. They sort of fulfilled the role of moderators, but have a better role as far as they can shoot.
Yeah, if they had pitches on them though, like the moderators do.
Yeah.
Gotta enable all that pano hacking. Next, Kamau, which fall into line infantry. Little bit.
I guess I kind of mentioned it with Croziers. I think they fail at the line infantry requirement. That they're too expensive, and their upgrades are not stuff you necessarily need on order generators. They've got some excellent profiles that you want to slot into a fire team that's made up of cheaper things. But as far as running them as line infantry, I don't think they work.
Yeah, we just have a look at their base profile, which is a mimetism combi rifle, BS13, mimetism neg 3, great, fantastic for a combi rifle.
Yeah.
Am I paying 20 points for a 1 wound 1 armor model, which just generates an order? Maybe.
Well, you're also paying for stealth, and if you're running them as line troops, you're not moving them up, which means stealth is not doing anything. BS6, not really needed for cheerleaders. Yeah.
BTS6, the only, I mean, I don't know what the BTS6 is even there for, or the hacker probably. So the hacker might have some play as a stealth BTS6 hacker, but I think the only one that people really know or really care about is the multi-sniper anyway, and you're paying through the nose for it. But it is a good piece. Certainly better in early N4 when you could link it with fusies.
It was better in late N3 when we didn't have the pure non-pure links.
Yeah, well, I mean,
BS16 got like insanity.
Early N4 you still had, because you still had impure links,
true,
full links in early N4. So, I mean, the Kamau sniper has had its time in the sun, but I don't know how well it ranks compared to other line infantry or line troopers.
Yeah. I put it down in like low C or high F just because it fails at being a line infantry by our definitions.
I think the main thing is that they fail in terms of their points. But if we take a look at sort of why we ranked the Fusiliers where they are, they can hold the line very well. Like, it'll be a very tough piece to actually push out. I think they're too expensive to put really high in C, and I'm somewhat tempted to put them in F.
I'd put them in F. Above the Croziers, but...
Put them in F?
Look, as a trooper, they're definitely not, like, I don't think they're an F tier trooper. Like, I mean, I'm always happy to put a Kamau in a Varuna list, but I guess in terms of if we're gonna like punch in the nitty gritty and go, we're gonna go right down into the factors. Do these how good are these in terms of fulfilling their role as line troopers? Then I think probably low C is where I'd put them. They're still like, you're always gonna want one in your list. You're always gonna want that sniper in your list.
But one,
I think that I've seen like where like kind of people kind of like pop like 2 or 3 in the list. They're sort of like glue in the faction. That heavy rocket launcher, a lot of people I've seen run because it's got good range, good long range, good close range, and of course the sniper rifle.
Yeah, I've seen the HMG as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's prolific enough in Varuna to be considered like a good line infantry, but it is very expensive.
speaking about expensive and prolific, the Neoterra bolts.
Neoterra bolts. So again, this is sort of like the Kamau where they've been put in this list because I guess fluff-wise, they're kind of the backbone of obviously NCA. Do they fulfill that role in gameplay? Kind of. If we're looking at like something that is difficult to get rid of, like as a ARO piece, a pure linked Neoterra bolt core is as expensive as it is. You're going to have a lot of trouble trying to get rid of those 2 dice and 16 MSV1 multi-sniper.
Compared to the Kamau, I can see Neoterra Bolt pure links on the table, whereas Kamau, I would question why they put a pure Kamau link on the table.
These guys also don't reach like outside of that. Oh, I guess they do for the. I'll shut up. I was gonna say they don't reach outside of 30, but then I looked at the sniper rifle.
The sniper rifle, they got a missile launcher, they got a Spitfire. They've all got marksmanship. Like, just the even the boarding shotgun, killer hacker, is phenomenal.
The boarding shotgun killer hacker is incredible. So I can see someone who's running NCA trying their hardest to run this core, especially in like a defensive mission, and it actually doing work and really slowing your opponent down. Right, you take the sniper rifle, maybe you take that missile launcher, and your opponent is going to have a hard-ass time cracking that squad.
Well, I think the difference I'm seeing with like them and Kamau. So with Kamau, you take a link and you add a Kamau to it to make it a special weapon. Bolts, you make a bolt link and then you add a cheap unit or two to bid it up in size.
Yeah, well, bolts have. I mean, with the reinforcements update, like bolts got blockers and blade ops that count as bolts. Like way cheaper. So
and they always had the machine. They always had the machine.
Yeah, I put them up in A.
You can make them pretty cheap. I mean, let's if I just make it pure ARO. Whatever, cheapest option. So only 111 points for a missile launcher, marksman, missile launcher, and sniper rifle.
Oh, you put both the missile launcher and the sniper rifle in. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm doing like the full, like expensive, whatever.
Yeah, fair enough. I just think like, Tristan's just put it very nicely in the chat. They define their faction.
Yeah, exactly. God damn it. That's probably one of the good ways of sort of almost describing them as like it can be thought of as a unit that sort of defines the faction.
Yeah.
And bolts fit perfectly into there. I reckon, I think you're right. The only reason they're not S tier is they're just kind of expensive.
Yeah.
And they do have to compete with the Fusiliers as far as like Fusiliers get the job kind of done the same, but for much less points.
The other thing as well is you're paying for over the Kamau, you're paying for very reasonable skills like upgrades. Yes. Immune shock, marksmanship, and veteran are huge.
Plus two armor.
2 armor.
Yeah,
which is huge.
Yeah. So I think that's why that's a very reasonable way to like put them above the Kamau, like well above the Kamau, and compare and contrast how we're doing this. Next up is Yuqing. Up with the Celestial Guard.
Oh.
All right.
I did not rank them highly. I think overall they're too expensive and they pay a lot of stuff for things that you don't need on a line infantry. Other than like the Whip 14 is nice, but like BTS 3, CC 15, dodge +1 inch, they all add up, and eventually you're going to be looking at your points and trying to cut a few, and those extra 2 to 3 points so that you can dodge 1 more inch if you manage to dodge on his 10
Yeah, they literally have, and we'll cover it in the next profile, but they literally have one redeeming quality, which is the Celestial Guard Monitor.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem is that when we consider them in vanilla, when we consider them in the sectorial that they come from, there are units that are used either as in play as the line infantry that do their job better, or that just do their job better. They provide orders, guard your backline, and all that sort of thing. And yeah, when we look at other line infantry, there's when we get to Haq Islam, you'll see like what Celestial Guards could have been. I think honestly, because of the way I see them play, I think they just fail as line infantry.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd rank them above Crozier's because they have a Whip 14 Lieutenant option.
I mean, like you're paying 13 points for a Whip 14 Lieutenant option, and you never see it. Like it's just like crazy. I think that's mental. To be honest with you, like as a JSA player, 13 points for a Whip 14 Lieutenant option. Holy crap! Just insane.
If you just hadn't left. You could still have the option.
Have the option. Oh dear, dearie me! I could play Vanilla Yujing, and still not take a Celestial Guard as a lieutenant. Moving on to Guangxi.
The reason why you don't see anything other than one particular Celestial Guard profile. These guys, they are 5-point regular orders. They do require that you take the monitor, which I guess increases their points by
13.
I don't know, like what's 9 divided by 4, like 3 points, something like that. But they fulfill the role of line infantry in vanilla. They fulfill the role of line infantry in
ISS.
ISS. Right. Yeah. I see no reason why, unless someone has a really good reason not to take maybe not 8 of them, but 4 or 5 of them.
So I would argue that we put Guangxi in the warband zone.
I absolutely agree.
The reason being is because they are primarily, especially in vanilla, but they're primarily impetuous corner guards.
Yes.
And like template options. They are fulfilling the role as they are 5-point regular orders. I mean, fantastic, well and good. But I would hazard putting them in the warband zone just because I really don't know if they fulfill what the... I mean, they are faction defining in that they are just, prisoners of war with a bomb strapped to their neck, which is what we all know that Yujing would be doing, and ISS especially. But I think that I would like to have them more in the warband zone than in the regular ranking. What do you guys think?
Yeah, when I was putting together this list, that was sort of where I saw them going. Is that while in the way the game's put together, like with the rules and everything, they're not classified as warband or anything, but they in every other aspect act as a warband troop. They're impetuous. They've got a template. Right? They don't have smoke, but I think they got dogged and explode.
Well, they don't. Also, they're not in. Like, I mean, you might see them sometimes in a 5-person core in ISS, but is that more to just suppress? That's more to just suppress their impetuous. You don't really ever and give them double template and reactive. You don't really ever see them as glue for a for a linked like HMG or something like that, which is sort of what I would really sort of want to see from them more if we wanted to put them as line troopers.
Yeah.
You could kind of compare them to Galwegians in Caledonia, where you can link them with like Wallace and other wild cards, but I mean,
You just don't.
they're 5 point. If you've got Wallace in the team, they're 5 point regular orders with a chain rifle. So I think I think they belong in the warband zone despite them not being warbands.
Yeah.
Yep, I can agree with that.
Okay, cool. We'll move on to Zhanshi. Basic bitch, line infantry -1.
Yeah, I think these are like quintessential. Like these guys are. I think there's potentially a better example of like pure average, but these are like the perfect average dudes, right? 11-point basic guy, a no SWC lieutenant, right? Full observer, paramedic, hacker, SWC weapons. I see them as just like wherever the middle of this tier list ends up coming, they're there.
Yeah, low B.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I was going to still put them in C, but I guess
it's
hard to say because they're still paying that point for dodge
Dodge.
+1
Yeah,
and a 15 CC.
Yeah.
And
they'll either be the lowest C, the lowest B or the highest C.
the funny thing is that you don't ever see them in white banner lists anyway. Like it's the same sort of thing. They're not faction defining. They are the basic trooper, but like with the reinforcements rules, updates, and everything like that, and profiles sort of getting cheaper as the game goes on, you start to see less of these guys in their factions, and people sort of tend to put different models in rather than making 5-man defensive cores. So I would. Like high C, I'm happy with them. I think they fulfill their role as line troopers more than say Kamau or Agusiles, but
and this is like a good example of like why we have the warband zone is in the case of Eugene, the Quan Chi have taken over as far as being the basic thing that you buy to generate orders because they're just so cheap. They're just so easy to put into your army. It's like that old. There used to be that Haq Islam was defined as a 280-point army and 4 Ghazis, and I feel like it's the same with the Quan Chi. It's a 280-point. Eugene is 280 points with 4 Quan Chis in them.
I think that's reasonable.
Yep.
All
right. On to the next unit. So
our first 2 wound.
Yes, the first 2 wound heavy infantry
line troop.
Line troop. Now, when we were talking about like faction defining, at the very least sectorial defining, the Zuyong Invincibles sort of define Invincible Army. And I think when a lot of people go to make IA, they're looking to make one of these pure cores of the Zuyong. So they fit as far as the line infantry go. Are they a good line infantry?
I would argue that yes.
I think given in faction, yes. They're not great in that you're still spending 26 points per order, but it's a good stat line. Like the points are spent well.
Yeah, and the good thing about them is that unlike let's say like the Kamau or the Bolt, like we've already ranked them pretty high. Unlike them where their points take away from you having extra orders, the Zuyong do work to get you those orders back, right? The characters themselves, I know they're obviously not included here, have NCO as far as like the fire team goes. One of the profiles there has a 10 bot -6, which helps with them being heavy infantry, as well as attack awareness, which helps keep that fire team moving. And when you take a look at IA, you do see a lot of Zuyongs. They're either guarding the Shang-Chi, or they're just rocking around with attack awareness, heavy machine gun, or I think attack awareness, heavy rocket launcher. I could be wrong about that. No.
Hack-aware Tinbot.
They used to have an attack
Tinbot.
aware missile launcher. I think the only real thing that I say that I think that puts these guys as an A plus line troop. There's one thing on this profile that puts them as an A plus line troop, and that is this skill right here.
Number two.
Yeah.
So, your main guy goes down. Fire team doesn't break. Number two just means that they're doing in IA kind of especially so. Number two just means that they're doing the job of a line trooper. They're holding up. They're making sure those orders are there. They're holding up the rest of the link. Their fire teams into So I think number two kind of pushes them above a lot of other ones ones here. They are expensive. You're probably not going to use as much of them. I mean, they're fantastic in Dash At, aren't they, Tristan? I'm just doing a bit of a bait here. So I would put them probably in the middle of B.
Yeah.
Yep. Mid to mid-high B, but we don't have much in B yet, so yeah, that looks good.
Also, I suppose apologies for the photo that I've used for it. There is no box. I found out there is no Zuyong box. So it was either that or a picture of the entire IA starter pack.
Could you just get the bits out of the IA starter pack? Yes, no, Crit Cockram and is that Tai Sheng? Oh,
yeah, Tai Sheng.
Well, that concludes Yu Jing, and we move into Ariadna. We're going to start off with the Caledonian Volunteers. Look at these guys. Great. They're fantastic. Caledonia Volunteers.
Awesome.
6-point chain rifle light shotgun.
Yep.
Is all you need to know.
I gave them a solid B because they're cheaper than a flashbot.
Although, funnily, I think in faction they're still more expensive than the baggage bot that they have.
They are. Look, Caledonia Volunteers are great. The only thing that I don't like about Volunteers, and I think your assessment of them is correct. I think they're in B tier. I would put them as worse than Moderators.
Okay.
The only thing that is bad about the Volunteers is that the Lieutenant profile isn't the 6-point.
It is also.
It's the rifle. It's which
how often do you actually care about their Lieutenant profile?
Never. They're also two. I believe that the Lieutenant is 2 SWC in vanilla.
Yeah, it is.
So that's crazy. You only ever see the 6. You see the 6-point one, and you see the paramedic. And in a lot of Caledonia lists, those two profiles make up. They do their job as line troopers really, really well. Anyone who's a fan of Rob Shepherd would know this. Just as backbone, just as burst generators for grey HMGs, they do the job really, really well.
Yeah.
But they don't creep any higher than that, I don't think.
Yeah.
You don't see them with their holding their main gun, which is but they have a sniper and they have a heavy machine gun. Why? I don't know why you'd use them. They are there. They're cheap.
There's no sniper. It's a grenade launcher.
It's a grenade launcher. Yeah, they have a grenade. But
although the grenade launcher for half a SWIC and only 10 points.
Not bad.
Not bad if you've got a core and you've got a few you got like 4 points to spare.
Yeah.
I suppose if you want to roll the dice and see if you can spec fire it.
I'd really like if they popped a template on the no SWC infiltration profile. But that's just me talking about how much I would prefer Caledonian Volunteers if they changed them to how I want them to be.
If you made them just
if I
fucking insane.
made them insane, made them really, really good. AVA total infiltration templates.
Yeah, so
at 6 points each. Fucking.
This is going to be, I think, a theme we're going to see with especially with Ariadna Line Infantry, is that it's important that Ariadna Line Infantry have those camouflage profiles, because without them, right, like the camouflage profiles really play to the strength of Ariadna, putting down templates everywhere and mines and making, playing those mind games and board control and all those sort of things. So it's good that the volunteers still have it. And you're right, it does suck that
they're the best comlink option. They're the best comlink option. 11 points, comlink +2. Only with a rifle though, that's unfortunate. But
Line Kazakh is the same.
Is it? There you go. Ariadna, best.
Same 11 points. Comlink +2, except for it's got 1 higher ballistic skill and 1 higher whip.
Oh, there you go. Line Kazakh's better.
What in the world does the +2 mean?
You can
+2 to your available model pool
in reinforcements.
Oh, so you can have 7 dudes.
So you can have 17 troopers in your entire
17 between the two pools.
Which in Caledonia is important.
That's a lot.
It's wild.
Yeah, I think they do well. They define the faction. They're really cheap. They're just options kind of suck. But you do see them a lot in like Caledonia. They do work as like the glue for a lot of cores. And also even in vanilla, I know they're only AVA 2, but if you got 12 points and you want 2 orders, they're pretty easy to fit in.
And chain rifle light shotgun is a scary fork.
It is. Chain rifle light shotgun's good.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, bottom of B. Reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, I want them here, but they're going to be here.
So I should point out the other thing, and we don't have them there because they are irregular, is that in Caledonia they are a little bit outshined by the Galwegian rifles.
Yeah.
Which is probably why, like, maybe if the rifles didn't exist, maybe the volunteers would be better.
No, I don't think so. I put
volunteers
I should say like maybe Corvus Belli would.
I put 4 more. I put far more volunteers into my lists than I do Galwegians. Galwegians were great when the 15 trooper cap wasn't a thing. Now that Caledonia is still so cheap with 15 troopers, you never see Galwegians really. All right, Line Kazakhs.
So if it wasn't for the fact that they didn't have combi rifles, and they had just normal rifles, I would say that these guys are stock standard. They're okay. The problem, there's 2 things. One of the problems with them is that they don't have any camouflage profiles, which is common among Ariadna line troop profiles. But I think they're the only troops with AVA total in vanilla.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they're the only line troop with total AVA. I think the rest have like 2.
I mean, you don't see them in vanilla.
Yeah,
you don't really even see them in TAC. So,
yeah, they work they work as good glue for some links like Harris's and stuff like that, but for the most part, Line Kazakhs are...
Line Kazakhs are 18 points for a +1 burst on your veteran Kazakh.
Yeah. They are... The problem is that they're just super forgettable.
I agree with Tristan. Not a hot take at all. They're worse than Croziers. Abso-fucking-lutely. You never see them. They're bottom of F. Not a hot take.
They have a 9-point lieutenant option. Does that put them above Croziers?
It does. Yes, you're right. It does put them above Croziers.
It does. Like literally, their only redeeming feature is that
Oh, okay.
they are.
Sorry, Kevin's
they
in the
work,
chat,
they,
not in the.
they
not in the
work
call.
as like glue.
I mean, not even. I just never see them in. Granted, I only really ever play against. No, actually, I play against a lot of TAC, and I rarely see them. I think that Line Kazakhs are just never taken. Almost
The
never taken.
only times I see them is if there's two of them attached to a veteran Kazakh, because it gives them +1 burst,
Yeah,
and
Much.
potentially a specialist to drag around.
yeah, fair enough. Whip, they are Whip 13, right? So,
Oh yeah,
Whip 13 paramedic. I guess ain't so bad.
Yeah. The thing is though, I think what paramedic is how many points?
11. Forward
11.
observer is 10.
Yeah, and I think 112 is 12,
Mhm.
and you get a doctor instead.
True, with a light shotgun.
Yeah, so you see them. I don't like. I'll be honest. I don't think they're F, but I can't really think of a reason to pull them out of it, so we'll leave it.
They're F. They're F.
We can put them slightly higher F, but yeah.
Yeah.
We have the Troupe Metropolitain.
And for the rest of this episode, we'll just be calling them the Metros. No, I'm just saying I'm going to call them Metros. You can try and keep saying whatever the fuck their name is, but I'm not butchering it.
The troops, the Metros, fucking great, excellent. I love them.
Yep. They're almost like regular. What are they called?
Dale Army.
Dale Army, yeah, with the Panzerfaust in there. They've got the camouflage profile. Again, they don't have a template on them, which is a bit sad. I don't think they have a template at all.
Unless you count a grenade launcher, no.
No, they don't have a direct one.
Look,
no.
They are faction defining only because of this profile here, which is the camouflage one used rifle Panzerfaust.
Yep.
If that rifle was a light shotgun, they would be an S tier trooper. That is not a light shotgun. Therefore, it's not quite S tier. You do see them in French lists because they are 8-point glue for things. You do see them in troops in French lists because they are an 8-point lieutenant as well.
Yeah.
So you're saying you see them in French because of lack of options?
Well, you see them in French because you kind of have to take them because French have like a total of 10 unit profiles in them.
First in their class of 1.
Bottom of C.
I'd go low C or high F. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I guess low C just because they've got the infiltrating camouflage Panzerfaust.
It's such a good profile.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you're right, they are faction defining, not by choice, but
well, I mean, look,
Yeah.
I guess that keeps them out of F.
I come from a school of thought mostly innovated by Julian, in that there's not much that stands up to a coordinated coordinated shot from 4 Metro Panzerfausts that only cost you 11 points. So, you know, they might just whiff because they're only BS11. But
BS10.
BS10. Oh shit! They might just whiff because they're BS10. Oh god, they're even worse.
Well, you do
than
4
I don't think you see them enough in even French lists to have them out of F.
Yeah.
Okay.
F for French.
Yeah.
That's perfectly reasonable. Are they better than Celestial Guard? Yes.
Yes.
Are they better than Line
Yes.
Cossacks? Yes. Are they better than Croziers? Yes. That's I think that's a reasonable way that we can do this. They aren't as good as Kamau, definitely not. So yeah, I'm happy to have them in F. Then we have Rockhots.
I think almost the complete, almost inversion of the Metros. Like, these guys are great for buffing up the what's the
Volkolak.
Yeah, the Volkolak missile launcher. They've got really good camouflage profiles with a 12-point profile with a template on it. And even those like the submachine gun grenades is a good one if you need the round template instead of the teardrop.
They have the same treatment as cappers in that their specialist units were made cheaper by trading out their guns for submachine guns.
Although they pick up grenades.
Well, yeah. I mean,
oh
right.
no, say like on top of that, they also provide additional variation in your core.
So the submachine gun grenades paramedic probably would be 8 points if it just had a rifle and not the submachine gun and grenades, but you get access to grenades. They're whip 13. I think they're pretty good, and they are faction defining in that they are cheerleaders for the Volkolak, and the Volkolak counts as a rocket. And bish bash bosh, you've got a BS-15 missile launcher that can never be shifted because it's bullshit.
Not just that, they come with template standard.
The chain rifle light shotgun, yes.
Or the rifle light
shotgun.
Rifle light shotgun, yes. And they have the rifle light shotgun is on the lieutenant profile. So I mean, they are paying 11 points when Caledonia Volunteers are only paying 8 for their lieutenant profiles. But beggars can't be choosers. Yeah.
I think a little above volunteers.
Are they better than moderators?
No, I'm gonna. Okay, actually, I'm gonna say yes because they get that pure link with the Volkolaks.
Okay.
Yeah. Are they better than Zuyongs?
I don't think they're quite as faction sectorial defining as Zuyongs are.
Yep. I'm going to make a strong argument for the skill that they have in a later because they are courageous in a later line infantry, which viewers on screen will be able to see me circling with the mouse just next to my face. But yes, we'll leave them. Well, I think we'll leave them there. That's fine.
No, I can sort of see what you're going to say about the courage, and I think all I'm going to say is you're right.
So these guys don't have the weapons because they don't have an SWC. They rely on the Volkolaks to provide their SWC weapons. So
they don't get to make as much use out of courage because they're not normally arrow pieces.
Yeah.
But I think one thing is good, that if someone gets something into your DZ, those grenades can come in super handy if they sort of run out of steam. You're like, I'm just going to try and chuck some grenades on top of you to get rid of you. Right? It's great because they can both be aggressive while still hiding. So, yeah, you could probably think that the courage is going to be used less on the rockets, a little bit more on the one you want to talk about, Josh.
Yes.
All right.
Grunts.
US Ariadna grunts.
I am so torn on this because, armor 3 on a 10-point model is really good. You put that in cover, and it takes far more than 10 points worth of work to get it out of there. And then immunity shock doesn't hurt.
Yeah, the one thing is that infiltration profile with a heavy flamethrower and 3 armor, even though it doesn't have a camo state, it can be fucking nasty.
You take 4 of them and just keep rolling over infiltrations until you stick one.
And trust me when I say that is almost what US Ariana does. Is you take hard cases, you take grunts, and you keep rolling garbage infiltration rolls until you have a bunch of dudes in your opponent's face that they just can't get rid of. I've had grunts in my face that just will not fucking die.
Yeah, same.
Right? Because they're 3 armor, 6 armor and cover, and generally if they have infiltrate, your big guns can't hit them all that well. because they're too close to be hit by a machine gun. They're too close to be hit by a sniper rifle. If you get a shotgun on them, well, guess what? Fucking heavy flamethrower to your face.
They could be the hardest hitting line troopers. That sniper rifle's damage 16 AP and shock.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's the other thing is that they don't do because of their high armor. They don't do half bad as like an ARO core. I think
they're no more expensive than any other line infantry corps.
Yeah, in fact, they're mostly cheaper.
Yeah. A tough lieutenant, 3 armor lieutenant is, if you're gonna take him, it's good.
With a grenade launcher.
Yeah. If you do it on your lieutenant, it's a free grenade launcher. No SWIC.
Is that the other one? Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Great for giving extra burst to the unknown ranger. Right. Great for.
I'm sure about the unknown ranger just because of the discrepancy in their 2 move values.
Yes, I wouldn't put grunts anywhere other than an ARO core or infiltrating that heavy flamethrower. To be honest with you.
I mean, like I said, they can just be used as to like they almost fill a similar role as the volunteers, as they can add burst to I think the Minutemen.
Oh yeah.
All right, which just means you are adding burst to an AP HMG.
Yeah, I would have no issue with putting them with Minutemen, but Unknown Ranger will lose them quickly.
The Unknown Ranger won't lose them. The Unknown Ranger is only 6'2", so they'll keep up. It's only going to be like the moves that, unless he's constantly moving 6 and shooting. Right, well, he's not gonna leave them behind.
The problem is that when you move, you're losing 4 inches or 2. You're losing 2 inches off them. Because he's 8 inches and they're 6 inches. If you're moving.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They're still 4'2", aren't they?
They're 4'2".
They suffer
I forgot about that.
They suffer the medium infantry tax.
Yeah.
Normally, if you've got a 6'2" and 4'4", you can just move, and people will kind of catch up. But if you move, they fall even further behind.
Yeah. I don't... I might put them behind... I would probably put them behind the Fusiliers.
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
I think they're better than Fusiliers.
Oh, sorry. Fusiliers. Oh, sorry. No. Sorry, yeah.
I think they're A.
Yeah, I'd go low A.
What did I have when I initially put them together? I had them pretty high up in B.
I think I would even put them better than Securitate.
Look, I think when I initially put this together, I didn't think about them in their faction enough, and they just fit US Ariadna so well.
I think I would put them above
just for the faction defining aspect.
Yeah, I'm just remembering playing like vanilla Ariadna and having one of those guys on my face and him taking like 4 orders to die. Right, for 10 points, that's so much value out of it.
Yeah, that's so good.
Right. You have to be smart. You have to be smart with them. But if you could find a place where like you could only see him within that 10.5 inches, right, and he's got this devastating heavy flame. I think it's the thing is he's got the best direct template in the game, a heavy flamethrower. He's just like, I'm in your face. Deal with it. Yep, no, that's fine. I like it in there.
All right, moving on from Ariadna.
Okay.
Haq Islam. Nick's so excited.
Yeah, so excited. Look at that smile.
So I think we only had 2 in Haq Islam because the rest of them are all irregular, so you didn't want to...
Also, Haq Islam is, I think, the only main faction that uses the same light infantry as its core in all of its sectorals.
And that's what we're going to talk about now.
And it's not an issue because...
The Golem is interesting in the fact that we can take a look at the entirety of Haq Islam to decide how good the Golem is.
I'll start by saying it is S tier, and I would make an argument for it being the best in the game.
I would second that argument. I think they probably
Yeah.
are.
If we go back to their profile, like
Yep.
when we mentioned, I think was it the Celestial Guard that had the Whip 14?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a Whip 14 unit.
With a lieutenant
Right.
plus 1 command token.
And a Doctor plus 3, so you're healing on 17s.
Yeah.
Right. You got like a good hacker. Right, because it's Whip 14, the NCO in every single sectorial, that NCO profile pops up everywhere, and it's just so fucking good.
Oh,
Like,
yes, it is.
I think like you see the lieutenant, you see NCO, you see the doctor, you see the hacker. Shit!
I see. Forward Observer comes up sometimes, but that's usually I've got a point left over. I'll put another specialist in there.
Yeah.
The EM Mines deployable repeater I have used before, but I don't link it. I just run it up there as a solo piece. Because then it can get up and, repeater there or EM Mines there by itself.
Oh shit, I just realized it's got 2 lieutenant options, one of them being +1 command token which with O12 in this season is also fucking incredible.
Yes.
It's like everyone in Hackers Line, they're born with a light shotgun in their hand.
Yeah.
So
on top of that, they have probably the best loadout for any light infantry
they have
of rifle light shotgun.
Yeah, they are. They're just so good.
Sorry, Josh.
No, they're just so good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about them.
I can't tell you how much I'm like, right, I'm gonna walk up to this ghoul arm and then I stop myself and go, you fuckers have a light shotgun, don't you?
The only things that I've been able to actually take out like piecemeal ghoul arm causes with models with Protheon. And even then it's scary.
There's nothing a ghoul arm doesn't do. I mean, like we were talking about the reason that we didn't put the war bands in this because honestly a lot of them would just fill up A and S tier, right? And then the ghoul arms have the gall to have a smoke launcher and a grenade launcher together, so they even fulfill the role of a war band in like the smoke throwing thing, and they can do it for free because that profile has the NCO. And they're so good.
They're so good,
right? And like the pure cores that they have in Rama are awesome, right? Because they've got it's just the ghoul arm core, isn't it?
But yes, and they have the Zaydens that slot in as the Swick weapon that keeps them pure.
Yeah, we'll go to the next when we get to the next unit. We'll talk about, but like they're there for like extra defense. Yeah, it's just as far as line infantry go, they just do it all.
Yep,
right. They're the perfect
quite reasonable points because it's not like they're paying a point for that terrain desert.
So they're not. I don't think there's any doubt of where we're putting them. I think they're very much the top of S tier. Following up from Ghulam are Nafatoons.
I ranked them as a nice B, just kind of because they ride the coattails of the Ghulams. I'm not quite sure where I'd put them. They're spicy Ghulams that add more versatility to the Ghulams, but they don't have the specialist.
Yeah. I think the main thing about them is that they take what the Ghulams have and they go, we're just going to have better templates. We're going to add to that defense. And really, you only see this in Rama. You don't really see them much anywhere else.
Where they are.
You could interchange a plain Ghulam with a Nafatoon and lose nothing.
I am going to make a case for something.
Go for it.
And considering what else we've put in there, I think it's reasonable that we put them in here. I think they're in the warband zone.
Ooh.
They're in when they're used. They're primarily link fill. They're corner guards. They don't. If we've been harping on this entire episode about how well they define faction and how well they exemplify that line trooper role, and everything that hasn't really done it to our satisfaction and has those just like 2 or 3 profiles with templates on them, I think they really go in here.
I'd put them between those two then.
Yeah, I would put them. I think they're between Kongshi and Jaguars in the warband zone.
Okay.
That's interesting. If you two agree on that, I'll leave it.
Ooh, this is a contentious point.
I agree to disagree because I will agree to disagree on that one.
I'm happy.
I agree with it because, like, I think I'd put them at about a B ranking, but I don't know how I would compare them to the other models in the B ranking because they don't really do the same thing. They're an adjunct to the Ghulams, and I think by that, then I'd put them in warband just because not that they're a warband, but they don't quite meet exactly what our requirements were, but they don't fail at the requirements either.
Yeah. I don't know if I put them above the Jaguars just because they don't have smoke.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
They're too expensive to beat the Quan Chi.
Yeah.
You are paying more for whip that's not that useless, Tristan. If you consider things like camouflage or impersonating things, you can if things with smoke, you can pop things on. Whip 14, 13, whatever they are. Is on warbands for a reason, and that reason is intuitive attack. Almost all warbands are in the whip 13 to 14 range. Galwegians are whip 14, McMurray's whip 14, and it's primarily for the use of you can just intuitive attack them. Granted, some of those have their own smoke to make that intuitive attack more juicy, but having a high whip on a warband is not a bad thing. I think it's only ever a good thing. But you're right. The smoke and CC and dogged, edges Jaguars are both the Nafatoon for sure.
Okay.
But I didn't consider. I'd never even thought about why they had such high whip. But yeah, you're right.
Well, that's how I justify warbands having.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I always wondered why the witch soldiers had such high whip, and that makes sense.
It's to reset against all the spotlights that they're taking. Okay, so with Nafatoon finished, that means that Hacker's Lime is done.
Yep, really short list.
Really short list.
That's what happens when you be like, what can we make Hacker's Lime the best at? Oh, light infantry. Well, what are we gonna do to make sure that they're the best of it? I don't know. Ghulams are everywhere and they're fucking insane.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll move on to combined army.
Let's just change the entire tone of this and go to. I would probably argue the faction with the close to worst on average line infantry units.
So
more
Vanguard infantry. So in a vacuum, I'd say they're probably about a B, but in vanilla and more at aggression force, they're outperformed by so many things that I'd put them down to a C.
You only see one profile of
correct,
which is the paramedic.
Yeah.
And you see it only in Morats. It's there because it's a 16-point paramedic. That has the Morat keyword in in the link team. So
it's something you will never see in vanilla. Like you just don't include them. They're just too expensive.
The problem is that the same cost as the basic witch soldier.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, as much as I don't know, not unfortunately, they're just you never see them even in their own sectorial. Other than
Okay, I can do that argument. Yeah, because it's a hard because like the profile is good for that point is good, and in any other faction, it'd be great, but it just competes with so many other things that are just better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that
And
that where we place them in terms of their like S to whatever ranking.
yeah,
Let's do that in faction, and then
Yeah,
where we
yeah.
put them within those, we can compare and contrast. I think they're
Yeah.
an F tier.
yeah,
And I would
I
put
could-
them under Metros and above Celestial Guard because they're not. I don't think they're as good as Metros. They're certainly better than Celestial Guard.
Yep.
I think once we get to like comparing like the units in the tiers, that's when you can sort of look outside and compare them just like profile wise. And yeah, you pay an extra point on the Morats Vanguards for veteran. Cool. That means that they're immune to loss of lieutenant. Awesome.
They can't be isolated as well. Pretty good. I think. I mean, look, I don't see them. You see the paramedic.
Maybe two.
Yep.
You
Maybe
see the
two.
paramedic. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Nox troopers.
speaking of paying for stuff that you don't need,
Shock. No.
So I was thinking about these guys, and I think the only reason they are so for anyone who's just listening, the Nox are expensive. Almost all of the line troopers for CA are, I think, start at 14 points, which is expensive for a line trooper. That's what, 3 points over what you'd really want to pay for a basic line trooper. And I don't think it has really anything to do. It probably does have something to do with the Zapper, but I think it's for the Morats it was veteran, and I think for the Nox it's the Shazvasti rule.
This combination of skills
It's
is quite
stealth.
good. Stealth is why would you need stealth on these?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you only need stealth on you only want stealth on these to keep up with Sheskin, so they're not provoking AROs when Sheskin's walking through as well. I guess so. I mean, that's quite good. I mean, they're fine. If you ever really want to see how CB ranks a combi rifle over a submachine gun, you've got a really good points comparison here. 5 points.
Yeah, it's true.
Um,
But yeah, I think the problem is that Shazvasti rule, because I think that pops up the points on other units that will that in holding in like quadrant control or like frontline or something missions, that Shazvasti rule is a nightmare. You put them into an impossible to reach position, they go down, and they still count for like controlling that sector. Problem is that the Nox troop for the most part is not going to be leaving your DZ. Right, so you're not going to get not going to be leaving your DZ and getting killed or knocked down unconscious. So you're not going to see the benefit of that Shazvasti rule. I think they've only got it looks like the only SWC weapon they have is a sniper rifle. Which
it is a BS attack guided sniper rifle.
There's two.
Yeah,
which does give it some. It makes it stand out, but you have to then. It's a BS-11. I guess that's about on par with a missile bot.
They pure link with the T-drone as well. So
yeah, so if you're gonna do guided, just fire a T-drone.
Yeah. They've got a cheap hacker with the Zapper attached.
The thing is, and I'm going to agree with you to put them in C, is they do glue a lot of links together, because you tend to see Nox something and then a wild card, and then maybe another Nox something and a wild and a couple of wild cards. So they do fit as far as that.
They just seem to go against everything that Shazvasti wants to do.
Yeah.
They're not good enough to see play in vanilla, and I mean, if you're playing Shaz, you're taking a bunch of Tagers and then a bunch of infiltrating camo things. You're not taking these guys, I don't think.
I would argue that Nox are glue in Shazvasti like Metros are glue in French. It's not by choice.
You have to.
Yeah.
So I think getting them like French are the top of F and Shaz are the bottom of C. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with that too.
I mean, look, if you do get to see advantage out of that Shazvasti rule, yeah, they're annoying. It's 14 extra points in an area.
And the immune shock and Shazvasti together is quite a good.
Oh,
yes,
that's almost necessary.
Unidrons.
Okay, so this is our first Ram light infantry. The Unidron Batroids. Really only a mainstay in Onyx Contact Force. Again, they start off at 14 points for the basic unit. Is armed with a plasma carbine, which is nice. They, like most robots, have courage, remote presence. Uniquely, they have dogged for a robot, which is interesting.
It's very good for the Overwatch piece because your opponent doesn't know if you're going to take it down or not, and it can depend on when during your turn. So if it's early in their turn and they put 1 wound on it, it can go dogged, and now they still have to deal with it. If it's toward the end of their turn and they put a wound or 2 on it, it just goes unconscious. But also because it has remote presence in dogged, they can put 2 wounds on it, and then it goes dogged.
Yeah. Right. They also have Discover +3, which is pretty unique as far as just something in unit profiles to do. Otherwise, if you're familiar with Dakinis, their profile's kind of the same. So I actually now think that Discover +3 might be needed because they are BS11, Fizz 10, Whip 12, which is, I suppose, a little low for a robot.
Don't need
the
it.
Discover +3 is nice. It's not as good as it seems because you're right, Whip 12. However, they're gonna pure link, and now you're up to a Discover on 18 base.
We'll get to why they drag themselves from being like lower than they are because of how they link. Arm 1, BTX 6, which is incredible. In cover, almost makes them kind of immune to flash pulses, which is kind of important because when these guys are put in a link together, they can link very well with the I forget the name of the unit, the specialist. What's it called? The Nexus operator, right? Who has a engineer with NCO that can go with them, which is great. And it just has a 16-point specialist profile. Oh, they're just flat NCOs now.
They are, they're NCOs.
But probably the thing that really makes them stand out, the Unidrons, is their weapons.
Yes.
Right. They have a missile launcher. They have a plasma sniper rifle. They have a K1 combi rifle with the 10 bot. And they have a Spitfire. They also have a forward observer, which is nice.
Well, just start with their basic gun as a plasma carbine.
That's right, yes, true.
They're not going into suppressive because they're in a core link, so you don't have to worry about that downside of the plasma carbine. It's a burst to an ARO plasma weapon as your baseline.
Yeah. And the last thing we have to mention about these guys is that in their sectorial, when they're linked, they're robots. So the one thing you can do with them is take the best Evo bot in the game, which is the E-drone, and make their sniper rifle marksmanship.
Yep.
Or enhanced reaction.
So they are in vanilla, but as soon as they get into Onyx Contact Force, I would almost call them that faction-defining unit.
Yes. They're one of the 2 faction-defining units of Onyx, and they're the one that is the core link.
Yeah.
In a couple of things, we're going to see another model which is similar, and will probably rank a little bit higher than these guys. But I think that they're reasonable in that they are probably an A tier line trooper.
They perform so well in their sectorial. And the other thing is, because you've got that K1 combi with the firewall and BTS 6, they're actually not that easy to hack.
No, they are very difficult to hack, and they can slot in a Nexus hacker if they want.
The better one, yeah, they can because it counts as it. They can take Kernel with them, which is a killer hacker with white noise, which is incredible.
Yep.
And a plasma rifle and a pitcher. So just they're just so.
So now you've got a Sixth Sense hacker or killer hacker in a fire team with a Tinbot.
Yeah.
Are you happy with them there? Would you put them above Securitate, perhaps?
I'd probably put them above Securitate.
Are they better than Grunts?
I think I wouldn't put them better than Grunts because Grunts have a place in vanilla where Unidrons really don't.
I also wouldn't rank them above Grunts just because the Unidrons need support to really shine.
Sure.
Yeah, true.
Whereas the Grunts, you can toss single Grunts out there, and they will do just fine by themselves.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
I think the other thing about the Unidrons is you're not really taking the specialist profile, which is the Forward Observer.
Actually, I would disagree with that.
If you get 1 point, you take him.
It's because it's 1 point.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And Onyx is not something that has, 3-point models to round out a list.
Yeah.
So, I guess by very short time of writing Onyx lists, a lot of times I'd have a Forward Observer in there just because, I've got a point. Let's make him a Forward Observer.
Fair enough.
It's a backup, backup specialist.
It doesn't make it.
It can be randomly a long-range ARO.
Yeah, it doesn't make the Unidrons necessarily any better, but if you've got a point, it just adds that flash pulse and adds a specialist. Then you're like, cool.
Yep.
We'll move on to Datarazi.
Yeah.
So again, when you take a look at Morats, when you take a look at Vanilla, CA, as soon as you get past taking, your 2 Imitrons, your 2 Icodron Batroids, you then start looking at the 14-point chain rifle +1 burst Datarazi, and they're incredible. There's nothing bad to say about them. Maybe that they're religious, but whatever.
Well, one of the reasons we ranked Morat Vanguard so lowly, because even in vanilla, their cheap one is 14 points, and the cheap Datarazi is 14 points. So if you're going to bring an order generator, you bring Datarazi first, and
an incredible trade piece with that berserk.
If you need to keep them as an order generator, you just keep them in full cover and hold them until you need them, and just don't impetuous them.
I mean, look, I think the Warband Zone is basically created for Datarazi, to be honest with you. But even if the Warband Zone wasn't there, they'd be up in here.
Oh yeah,
easy.
So let's put them at the top of the Warband Zone and call it a day. They're good. They're great. They're fantastic. All right.
Do you mind taking a quick break at the start of LF?
Yeah, let's take a little...
I'm almost empty.
Yeah, no worries at all. Let's have a ALF break. Pause.
All right, thank you, listeners. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with our infantry line infantry tier list with ALF.
ALF.
Yeah. My boys. So first profile off the rank is our second remote line trooper for line infantry for this list, and is the Dakini TAC bots.
I still can't believe they cost 13 points.
They're so good. They're
I
so
can't
good.
believe it's not butter.
So uniquely for line infantry, Dakini are the fastest with a move of 6'4". BS11 standard for sort of robots for the most part. Standard robot skills, except for the fact that they have mimetism. They are whip 13, which is obviously for the most part a sort of average whip for a line trooper. BTS 3, which is okay, especially for a robot, means that they're hard-ish to
Hack.
well, they're not really hard-ish to hack, but they're not like super vulnerable with BTS 0. But the main thing about the Dakini is they do have a specialist profile in the paramedic, which in some missions is fucking incredible. And they have a heavy machine gun for 21 points and 1 SWC, and a multi-sniper rifle for 1.5 SWC and 20 points, which is nothing.
And given this is also on a remote, which means it can be buffed by an Evo
hacker.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to the Unidrons. Very easy to put in a pure core.
Yeah.
Very easy to have just an engineer near them. There's plenty of good engineers that you would take in Aleph, in OSS, that you would just put with them. And you just put like the robot there, they go down, you get them back up, reforge the link. But they also work in their vanilla faction. That I wouldn't say the sniper rifle so much, but that HMG works incredibly well. If you're doing vanilla, you've already got a bunch of sort of cheap orders. You might have the paramedic to do objectives, and you've got this Dakini with HMG buffered up with an Evo bot, and it's just dancing around the board with BS 14 shots, and if it dies, you lose 21 points.
And if you've got an engineer, although don't really want to gizmo kit these guys, but if you've got an actual engineer,
you don't want to gizmo kit most robots.
These guys are
just
the biggest thing is the cheapest chips, and they just it's the speed and the mimetism and the buffability that just make them incredible.
Yeah, and they've got I mean, it's sort of rarely used now, but they do also have the Apsara, which sets their BS to 13, so they become BS 13.
I think that is only in OSS.
No, it's in both. It's just cheaper in OSS. It's an SW. It's cost an SWC in vanilla.
Yeah, so you can spend in vanilla a decent amount of points on that HMG Dakini, but you do end up with a marksmanship mimetism BS 13 HMG that moves 6-4. So look, incredible.
I love Dakinis. I think they're great. I think they belong where I've put them, which is the middle of S tier. They're not as good as Gulam, but they're better than regulars.
I'm gonna say maybe you're putting them a bit too high.
Oh,
because they are super vulnerable to hacking.
They're in the back of your deployment zone. You don't really put them anywhere else.
Yeah, they are vulnerable to hacking, but I think they're back your deployment zone. If your opponent gets that far back, you've got more problems than just that they're hacking your core.
Oh well, no. The other thing is with the new. I'm gonna actually retract that because I just realized with the new addition of all the reinforcements ones, they can also run around with a day one.
Day one attack bots are insane. Look, I think I would put them above a contest match regulars because they keep their mimetism with them, rather than the Sapper just getting it when it's in the foxhole state. I think that while they as regulars have really good specialist profiles in the hacker mostly, they're sort of less required on Dakinis because you have access to Whip 15 specialists elsewhere in the list so easily, post-humans, for example. So I think that I really think that Dakini belong in the S tier. there. I think that they define OSS, and
Yeah,
and they're
and
just so good.
Yeah, and they are, now I think about it, they are a nightmare if you can get them into, because they're so fast. It's very easy to get them into a good spot. They are a nightmare if you have a couple of them and you coordinate order suppressive fire them.
I mean, they're just
every single weapon they have is except for the sniper rifle, can be put in suppressive fire, and then really your only option is to blind them or hack them. That's it, because most things can't really outshoot that.
Well, I mean, I think you're putting a bit too much emphasis on they're pretty easy to outshoot if you've got mimetism. If you've got mimetism or MSV models with guns that are longer than 16 inches. It's pretty easy to outshoot Dakini and suppressive.
Yeah, I probably am.
They're just like solo BS11 on a combi rifle, even if it is mimetism, is kind of a bit shit. You don't really see. Look, to be honest, you don't really see Dakinis in vanilla. I like to play a Dakini HMG in vanilla, but I think that that's not really the accepted wisdom of how to play Dakinis. But I think that they're just so faction defining in OSS. The first thing you do in OSS is make a Dakini link, a five person Dakini link with a sniper rifle.
And I mean, like, even in vanilla, you're right. I don't think they're faction defining in vanilla. You'll see that 15-point paramedic constantly because it's just an incredible specialist.
All right. Let's go to the next one, which are, I think, Myrmidons next.
Myrmidons. So, talking about faction defining, as far as Steel Phalanx goes, these guys are
They're not even line troopers.
No.
They're veteran troop. Oh my god, what are we doing here? The integrity of this tier list has been called into question.
Neither are bolts.
True.
Bolts are exactly the same.
True.
Except they're medium infantry instead of warbands. Myrmidons are the cheapest one that you see most of the time. Are your 16-point smoke thrower. They've got like incredible combat as well as for how much they cost. In Steel Phalanx, you're at least going to see 3, if not 4, of these guys. And in my experience, that Spitfire profile, right, when combined with, it's pretty good shot, BS12, in a 4-man link with its mimetism, just does work.
I think one of the problems with Myrmidons is they're a gear check for your opponent, and either your opponent makes it or they don't. And if they make the gear check, you've spent a lot of points in 6 on models that don't necessarily benefit from it.
Look, there's one Myrmidon. There's one Myrmidon profile. There's one Myrmidon profile. There's no other Myrmidon profiles. The only Myrmidon profile that anyone cares about or wants to see is 16.1. You see exactly 2 of them in every Steel Phalanx list, or unless you're playing a big boys list. You see maybe 1 of them in a vanilla Aleph list. I don't think to say that you would spend 24 points for a combi rifle is like the fact that the 16.1 has 2 templates. It has both the chain rifle and the nano pulsar, which is actually really cool. They have the smoke grenades, awesome. They've got the whole suite of warband skills, and they have the CC weapon that you want. Who cares about a DACC weapon who cares about an APCC weapon when you could have access to a DA one? Means that The only way that you would see more Myrmidons is if they were 14 points, or if they were impetuous rather than frenzy. The fact that they are frenzy only is a crime. To be honest,
So would you put them more in Warband then?
Oh, they're absolutely
or...
a Warband. Yeah, they're 100% in the Warband, and they're better than Jaguars.
Yep.
That's where I'd put them.
Yep.
I'm getting angry. Oh, actually. Oh, no, actually, that's where I put them. Don't worry about it. That's exactly where I put them. Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of people... I think that range band of, what? Above 8 to, 24, Steel Phalanx can struggle a little bit. I think the Spitfire is really good for that, especially just because I think Affinity still goes with the idea of Dice King.
Because you want a burst 5 weapon, or you want a burst 4 weapon in that range, man. When you've got Uterus, you take Uterus over. I would take Uterus over a Spitfire Myrmidon every day of the week. 2 structure, a Mark 12 over a Spitfire. Uterus is better.
Yeah, you're probably right. I haven't. The problem is I'm still in N3 mode with Steel Fangs. I haven't touched them since then.
I think that's a reasonable thing to admit. Steel Phalanx, the Steel Phalanx has changed a lot, and with the introduction of some of the reinforcement profiles as well, and the newer profiles like the Mackie and things, you see fewer Myrmidons than you would think.
You would see that hacker a lot more if it wasn't for Pandora.
Oh yeah. The Myrmidon hacker was good when your only other choice was
Well, no, the Myrmidon hacker was never good. The Myrmidon hacker was just your only choice.
Necessary when it was who was the hacker? Who was the one with Zero Pain before Pandora?
The journalist.
The something. I can't remember his name.
It sounds a lot like you're describing Myrmidons like we were describing more at Vanguards, where there's 1 or 2 profiles that you put in because they kind of fill a role that's not there, but for most of them, there's something better than the rest of the profiles.
Yeah.
I think the point of Myrmidons is Thrasymedes, that's right. No, Thrasymedes is the Thrakitai.
Thrasymedes is still in it. He's the Thrakitai one. It's like Thesissus or something like that. It's like Thaysis or something like that.
Okay, maybe look up retired profiles then.
Look, they've got a defined spot in the tier list. They are in the Warband zone, dead in the middle. If they had Impetuous, they might be up there with Datarazi, but they don't. So they're not.
Yeah, you'll always see them. They'll never go away, but if Steel Phalanx wasn't a hero faction before the big change to them, they're a hero faction now.
Yeah, they're fully a hero faction.
I have tempered my rage by looking at what I actually did before I came here. You are 100% right that they are middle of the Warband. At the very least, they can get everything done that all the other Warbands go. They're just a little bit better as far as not getting shot at too badly.
Thor Rakatai.
Is this the one?
No. I almost would link them back to a little bit like the Grunts.
Oh yeah.
In that, they're medium infantry. They're 3 armor, but the points you don't really feel like you're paying for medium infantry.
It's reasonable. I think I like Thrakitai. I think that their main selling point is their link with Mackies, in a 4-person link, which is sort of really good because it actually has made a place for Thrakitai. I mean, before Mackie existed, you kind of had them in with like having them as their own link with Feuerbach as the sort of like as the SWC gun. But yeah, I think that having a couple of forward observers or having a paramedic, a forward observer, and a base one as link glue for a Mackie missile launcher, excellent. But I don't think they're anything special. I think they're basic.
How about the Zero Swick light rocket launcher? Because that seems like that sticks out to me, but I don't play Aleph, so I'm not quite sure if there's room for him in their links since they're limited to 4.
To be honest, I don't know. The fact that it is only limited to 4, which means that Thoracoti is really only ever going to be BS12 because I don't think you're going to get a pure Thoracoti link unless you take Thrasymedes or Alki. And if you take Thrasymedes, you're not taking that because he's got a light rocket launcher. You're not taking the Thoracoti one. So
okay.
I don't know.
That's the thing.
That's a conversation for someone who's spent a lot of time playing Steel Phalanx, and I'm not one of those people.
The thing is that even back in N3, when half of these profiles had 360 visors, you took maybe the specialists because you sort of lacked specialists.
I love them. When they had 360 visors, I put 1 or 2 in every one of my vanilla lists.
Yeah, they were really nice when they had them. When they took away the 360 visors, and they became, a 14. Like they're a 14-point combi rifle nanopulsar. Like at that point, you almost got to compare them to a grunt, and they're 5 points more than a grunt.
See, so Thrasymedes
is insane.
Thrasymedes is actually really cool. Is 12 points more, is an FO, has mimetism -6, has a submachine gun zapper, flash pulse, light rocket launcher. So,
but he's a wild card. So if you want to take him, put him somewhere else.
Nah, you want that BS13, mate.
Yeah, sure. If you want, but even then, you're not going to take much of them. Again, I think the problem is that you're not going to see them in vanilla. You're rarely going to see them in their sectorial. They're pretty. If you guys don't want to have them, they're pretty close to failing as far as the light infantry goes because you're just not going to see them.
Thoracoti.
Yeah.
I put them in every Steel Phalanx list, right?
Do you link them with a Mackie?
Yeah. 3 Thoracoti and a Mackie missile launcher. Great. Fantastic link.
I mean, sure, maybe that's about the only use case for.
I think they're better than Nox. I don't think they're as good as Kamau.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
No, I'll take that. Yeah. I think it's generous, but yeah.
It probably is generous.
Yeah.
But
I don't.
What am I? I'm about to give Kasotsu S. So generous is my middle name.
I don't think they. I think only because they've got that 12-point unit, which means you can keep the link cheap. This is really the only reason they beat the Nox.
Pulsar, so good.
Well, yeah, but they're going to be hiding in the back. What the hell's a Pulsar going to do?
Oh man, when they had 360 visor, they were so much better. Anyway,
they were so good. When they had 360 visor, and because of the ITS rules had forward deployment 4, they were amazing.
The Toha. I think we should have a look at these. Light infantry.
So these guys are actually the bare bones infantry. They have no skills. They have BS11, Phys 11, Whip 13, 1 armor.
They're surprisingly expensive for being so bare bones.
Yes.
20% more expensive for being bare bones.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, you never see them, and you never see them.
They have one use case, and one use case only, is the fact that they are the cheaper option for a hacker in the faction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, admittedly, the hacker that they do have, which is a character, is actually pretty fucking amazing as far as her profile goes. Because I think she has a K1. No, yeah, she can have a K1 or a viral regeneration sensor triangulated fire hacker BS12. She is like twice the cost, but such as living as Toha. Yeah, the problem with Toha, because everything is harasses. They just don't fill the role of light infantry.
Also, because of the next one, that they're only 1 point cheaper then.
Yeah. Hold on. The Crozier. Oh no, because the Crozier can still fit in a little bit. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Crozier's got an MSV2 Spitfire.
Yeah, that's. I was trying to remember. You're right. Yeah.
Normally we've had the Crozier down there also because it doesn't have a lieutenant profile, but Camille has a lieutenant profile that you would never use because the lieutenant profiles in Toha are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing with Toha lieutenants is, funnily enough, you're forced to take really good profiles on them. You don't have a choice. So yeah, the profile for the Camille is just garbage.
Yeah. And for 1 point more, you can get a.
Hoppy said he never even painted the Toha line infantry. The warband is all you need, which is poignant because the next one is the McCools.
The McCool. So this is your quintessential again warband. Arguably, probably the best warband in the game. Almost, they are good martial arts. They have martial arts -6. They can have DA or viral weapons. They have Eclipse Smoke, and they have a devastating template and a heavy flamethrower. Like, before you reach for the Camille, you're gonna reach for a McCool.
Yeah.
And they have the AVA to be. I think they got 4 AVA, which
6.
is about all you need. 6. There you go. Yeah. So you're never gonna need any of them.
Comparing profile to profile, I would put them just below Dadarazi, but because of how they work in Toha, in building all the Harises, they definitely go top of Warband.
Yeah, they're just. I mean, I would almost say, even though they're not supposed to be, they're practically. Well, they almost define the faction. It's a troop you see the most. Oh shit! Yeah, there's one. One of our patrons was right. They also got a contender, which is a really nice weapon in a Paris.
I think they're better than Dadarazi.
I didn't know they had a contender. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that viral CC weapon is, in most circumstances, just better than the DA.
Where Dadarazi have guaranteed CC success because they have Berserk. McCool have guaranteed CC success because they're just plain one of the best CC units in the game. CC attack -3 is a hell of a skill, combined with martial arts level 2, hell of a skill. They could only be better if they had Natural Born Warrior, which, I mean, granted, they weren't made yesterday, which means that they don't have Natural Born Warrior. But if they were made yesterday, they would have the same points and they would be Natural Born Warrior.
I mean, I suppose the best thing is if you threw a McCool at a Dadarazi, technically they should win. Just on the numbers.
Yeah, mostly because the McCool's thrown Eclipse first and Dadarazi can't berserk them. I would hazard a guess and say I would think that the 13-point McCool beats out the 14-point Dadarazi. I guess like a double burst chain rifle, I'd have to run the numbers, but a double burst chain rifle might be slightly better at killing one units than.
I'm also trying to figure out how to balance. Dadarazi has Mim -3 and Smoke, whereas McCall has Eclipse. And that's kind of it's almost, in most situations, the Mim -3 and Smoke is going to be superior, but when it fails, it absolutely fails, whereas Eclipse is everyone treats it the same.
I want to have a quick look at something else.
I
only have dodge plus 1 inch as well, so they have McCool's have a 4-inch dodge, whereas Datarazzi's have a 3-inch dodge. So I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah, and also the religious means that, like, for the McCools, if they fail and somehow survive, they can get back. They could choose to get back and reset.
Wow.
Right, the
Religious
Datarazzi have to roll for it.
Religious is just up there paying for the fact that they're like literally every other skill under the sun. So
yeah. I think McCool, given how they function in faction, McCool are better.
Yeah,
still.
I was just about to say, regardless of anything we're talking about here, comparing the profiles, the Datarazzi are there to add orders and throw smoke. The McCools are actually like glue for your fire teams.
Yes.
All right. Should we move into NA2?
NA2. So this is going to cover really only 2 factions. It's JSA, and it's going to cover Druze. Just quickly before we go on, just wanted to talk about one unit that we did take out of Toha, which is the Sakiel.
Yep.
Normally, not really, like the way you look at it, not really a line infantry, but it does have a very similar function to it. It's got the same sort of profiles: paramedic, forward observer, some SWC weapons. However, it gets complicated in the fact that it's not like a glue or anything. It's got symbiote armor, so while I feel that you could arguably say that it's like a slightly more expensive, and for a good reason, line infantry is just too weird to put into this list.
Yep. You see one Sakiel and one Sakiel only, which is the paramedic. So it doesn't...
true. I mean, that's the thing with Toha. You pretty much see 1 or 2 of each profile because it's just the way they work.
All right. First up, brawlers. I would say these are basic bitch bare bones line troopers, but we've said that about almost every profile.
This is the baseline medium line trooper.
True, they are medium.
Because they're not the cheap discount medium. They're a decent medium without going too expensive.
Yeah, they're not like the Thrakatai. They got the discount for the SMGs or the bolts that just got a million rules and said, we're pretty much made with a blank check.
Yeah, 15 points is getting up there, but I feel like you do get your value from them in that BS12. You've got 2 armor. You're starting with rifle light shotgun.
That Hacker's Lounge special.
You don't have whip, but you just don't take their specialists, especially the doctor, because I think in most situations, if you've got burst bonus from Link, you're better off shooting med darts than trying to doctor.
Yeah, it's difficult when we talk about the brawlers and the next unit because they are in factions that are just difficult at the face of it, right? Druze, which is sort of where these guys come from, are just a difficult faction. But the thing is that these guys show up plenty in those factions, especially that sniper. Because you can very easily put them into a pure link. They are a decent shot. You've got access to smoke. You might see the doctor for a med kit. To have the med kit, it's not the most expensive. Actually, it is pretty fucking expensive for what it is. But I mean, it still has a rifle light shotgun, which is a nice loadout, as we said, for the ghoul arm. I mean, I can't say that they're a failure. I can't say that they're great. I'd probably put them in C. I'd probably put them above the Nox because they're a little bit better than the glue for their faction. They do sort of have that hold the line potential.
They also mix and match. So in some cases they will be the filler in the link, and in other cases they'll be the special weapon link.
but yeah, above the Nox.
I put him above the Nox just because when you take a brawler, it's because you take a brawler. It's not. I take a Nox because it's
You're forced to.
the only option. Yeah. Brawlers typically have competition, so if you take them, you're actually taking the brawler.
True.
Or you're choosing to take the brawler.
Yeah. And admittedly, now I look at it, that heavy rocket launcher profile with a assault pistol.
Yes.
Assault pistol's nice. Heavy rocket launcher's nice. It does mean that you've got a decent amount of ranges covered. It's always good. Mm-hmm. It's always a bit sad when you see like a missile launcher, like in the Riot Girl, it's a missile launcher with nothing else. And you're like, well, I hope you don't get within 24 of me. So at the very least, this covers up to 8.
There's a lot of missile launchers and there's a lot of heavy rocket launchers that have submachine guns out there, or assault pistols.
No, I know that. I'm just saying it's sad. It's cool. It's sad when you don't see it.
Yeah, you're right. Next up, I guess, is Druze.
So these fall as, I suppose, more of like what you were saying, like the premium medium infantry.
I think with these, they've got a lot of tools, but you're paying for all the tools, and you don't necessarily need all of them on every model.
Yeah, like I feel like the only one I ever see people really talking about, although I've never even seen that Mimetism -3 sniper rifle, is the EM grenade launcher for like spec firing.
They're also good hackers for their factions. Like they're
that's the unfortunate thing. They're a good hacker for their faction.
But Whip 13, BTS 3, so they've got a good baseline there. They've got pitchers, and then they've also got D charges for doing objectives.
They're also X visor on their pitches.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Which means they get up to 32s on -3.
Yeah, they can spec fire like across the table, which is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, you're right. They're paying for all of this stuff that they don't really need. I mean, turn the viral pistols into pistols. Get them 2 extra points.
I think what usually makes them work is that you mix and match them with brawlers.
Yeah, I feel like the brawlers beat them out as far as
definitely.
inclusion.
Look, in Druze, lots of things count as Druze, so you can usually get away with having a couple of Druze in your lists. A good example of something that has access to Druze that you would never take them in is something like Ikari Company. Ikari Company have access to Druze as a Harris option. I don't think you're ever going to take them.
And
as part of Druze,
I'm happy with a C tier.
They definitely see
in there.
They're not as good as Kamau. I don't think. Are they better than Thurakatai?
Here's the thing, though. I just took a look. Like, they really compete for just like against the digger.
I would put them right below the brawlers then.
Yeah.
You reckon? Below the brawlers?
Yeah.
I'd actually put them behind the brawlers.
Oh, so yeah, just after the brawlers. Yeah. Between the brawlers and the Nox.
Okay.
And it makes thematic sense to have the brawlers and the Druze right next to each other.
Yeah. The problem with like both of them is things like the digger counts as a Druze. Aida Swanson counts as a Druze. I know she's expensive, but she's gets forward.
She's cheaper than Druze.
She is actually. You've got a good point there. Don't know if you'd ever take Arslan, but you never know.
Trista raises a very good and salient point. Druze do technically define their faction.
True, but
I
not,
think
not by choice.
Only faction that's named after a unit.
Or unit that's named after the faction.
Actually,
I'd take it back. They're named after the faction because the Druze is like the mafia that they're part of. So they're just the shock team of the Druze, like conglomerate or whatever. They're not anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm getting ready to fight Josh.
The NA2 that plays over in its own corner.
Yes. So NA2 that really shouldn't be called NA2.
Kusatsu Butai. Kusatsu Butai.
Okay.
These guys are trash.
Yep. I can't quite give them an F just because they have courage.
They are definitely not an F. They are definitely not an F. They are definitely not. Okay, there might be a C. Look,
they're in the low C, I think.
No.
Really?
Yeah. I've got This is why. This is why. Look, yes, they are BS10. They are 12. They are Whip 12. Okay, get that out of the way. I know that. This is why Kusatsu are good. They have a 14-point courageous missile launcher with armor 1, right? Sometimes that boy just takes a bunch of HMG shots and stays standing, and he's still 14 points. He means, like, the missile launcher means nothing to the outcome of the rest of your list. You always are just going to have this. It's absolutely true. This is confirmation bias. Anyone needs to go back and listen to the BrizCon recap and have a listen to Val and Hector talking about my about my Kusatsus. This is why that they that I am so high on them. I really like Kusatsus. I think that they show why courage is such a good skill. A 14-point missile. Look, they are like a bottom of C probably. But if they're a 14 points, so it's probably one of the very few factions that the missile launcher is cheaper than the heavy machine gun. A 14-point missile launcher just sits there. You can have 2 of them if you like. It's not a particularly SWC heavy faction. It just basically means nothing. They're just 14 points that is perfectly throwawayable, and sometimes they just stay standing and are annoying. And that's basically the only reason why Kusatsu are any good. The fact that they have a 14-point missile launcher, if I need to say that again, that has courage and 1 armor. So, they might be better than Druze.
Yeah, okay. I'm comfortable with that.
Are they better than Brawlers, though? Probably not, to be honest. Well, you would take Kusatsu over Brawlers in Ikari.
Yes.
But you're not taking...
Partly because of points.
Yeah, partly because they're 9
what's
points.
The cheapest order I can get? Okay.
A 9-point Kusatsu with a combi rifle.
Yeah. Look,
yeah.
They are still something that you like could reach for to be a like a cheerleader. They do very well. Like they do buff up Kempetai really well. So you take 2 of them, 3 Keisotsu. It's a nice cheap Harris, good shot. Like the marksman MSV2 is a good shooting. They do good for defending your DZ. Honestly, like, I don't think they're as good as moderators because they don't have all the other bits around them. But yeah, I would say they're not. They provide what they need to the faction, which is cheap orders and a potential for a devastating ARO.
Why are Aguasile so high?
Because they were the first one there.
Aguasile is better than Kamau's?
Yes.
Oh.
Because you'll take multiple Aguasile,
Fine.
You'll take a Kamau multi-sniper.
But that said, you will take a lot of Keisotsu.
That is a fair argument. I don't think when I play into JSA, I expect to see at least a Harry's of Keisatsu with a missile launcher.
Like, yeah, we're not necessarily talking about like performance here, just how well they do as like performance is when you get into like B and A. Here, C is just how good are they at being a line infantry.
Yeah, okay, I could put them in higher C then.
I could almost.
I'm getting everything I want.
I could almost say, yeah, you could easily just put them dead center, right? Josh, I think I'll let you decide what side of the Kamau they go.
They're below the Kamau. They're not as good as Kamau.
Okay, there you go.
Trista says you auto take 3 of them in vanilla.
I mean, you could very easily like the thing is the Kamau. Sorry, not the Kamau. The Keisatsu unlock things because you take what you only got. The other thing is JSA only have access to 1 flash pulse bot, don't they?
They do.
And 1 baggage bot.
They do.
So you very quickly run out of cheap orders. So the very next thing you got to take is the Keisatsu, and you need that to unlock the ability to take your big units, your Oyoros, or whatever you take that need orders, but take up a lot of points.
You're saying you take them because you have no other option.
It's true.
But that's the thing. They also like they're good at buffing up a Kempetai. You don't like they have a place, especially in JSA, as a good like line infantry.
Mm-hmm. Middle C?
Yeah.
Middle of C.
Okay.
I
middle
think...
C.
Yes! Vindication! Damaru.
So, look, I'll be honest. This one might be a little bit of me looking back at me playing JSA back in the day and loving taking Damaru cores. But I still think that they're cheap, heavy infantry. They've decent shots. They got good CC. You don't really need to shy away from taking 5 of them. They're not that expensive. I mean, if you take a look at like even where we just put the Drews, these guys are about the same cost, but probably provide you with more.
I would say they're in the warband area.
They do.
Yeah, actually, I like that. I think they might be in the warband zone.
They're not something that forms the backbone of your army. They're one of the units that you plunge down into your opponent.
But that's the thing. They can very easily form the backbone of your army.
By that I mean they're not holding the line. They're charging in.
Yeah.
And they don't have the options to have that long range, medium range, short range. Like you're taking them, you can take enough of them, but you're taking them with chain rifles and EM grenades, and then probably a Spitfire. Like they don't have smoke, but I'd argue they're in the warband area.
Nick, stop making good points. You know what, Josh? Just if you like it, this is your faction. I haven't played them in ages.
Look, I think I have made a lot of argument for putting things in the warband zone that probably shouldn't be. So I am happy to concede this point to Nick. If I was depending on the kind of list, you can make Damaru like Damaru can be up here. The reason that they can be up here is because they form a similar function to Zuyong's. They provide core. They provide link glue, And like, you know, they provide some sort of function in that link where they have EM grenades, they have EMCC weapons, they're good in CC. They have one of the longest skill lists in the game. I think they have 11 skills, and Norkius has 12.
Do they?
Yeah, or like 10 or 11, I think it is. They. Oh, he's counting. So if we were going to put them as actual line troops, I would say that they're up around here, because like everything in this thing, apart from maybe Fusiliers, they provide a little bit of glue for better pieces, like the Diokai, like the Karakuri, or the Tankos. So you're not taking them for their gunfighting, but you are taking them for their other roles that they provide. They're fast, they're hard to kill, and they put things down with, you know, absolute merciless ruthlessness. Yeah. So, but like all that being said, considering how hard I fought to put the Nafatoon into the warband zone, I think they deservedly go in here. They are better than Guangxi. They're not as good as Datarazi.
I mean, I was gonna say I 100% agree. I think they are pretty much they are the Japanese version of the Zuyong. They are there to provide point guard to your big guns. They do work. That Lieutenant Spitfire +1 order, right, is like really good for like powering the Diokai. But look, I'll put them in the warband if you guys want to put them in the warband.
I'd say compare them to McColl's.
Yeah, that's a reasonable point. That's a reasonable point.
Enough. I didn't expect to have any infantry in there, so there we go.
All right.
Last faction.
O12.
O12.
Prestige. Kappa.
Ooh, Kappa!
Yeah, so looking at the Kappa immunity to shock, which I think is actually decent for a line infantry. If you ever draw combat support, it means that you can hopefully heal them up.
It's also a faction that can pick up decently cheap doctors and have them scattered around.
Yeah. So the best way of looking at them is that they are a 1 point more expensive Fusilier.
This just shows power creep. They have a 17-point missile launcher. Kusatsu's are 14 points. They have 2 more ballistic skill, 1 more whip.
And shock immunity, which I think they probably cost more than courage.
I don't think so.
No,
I think
I'd say courage probably costs more.
Mm-hmm. I would,
because its impact is sooner and has a larger impact on the game.
Yeah. They do have a Swick costing lieutenant, but in O12 that doesn't matter so much. The Raven Eyes are dirt cheap as well. You can take a bunch of them. They're good lieutenants. So it's not something that is really hard. Like, is pretty hard to hold against the Kappa. I feel like it in the case of the Kappas, I think that Swick is CB trying to tell you, what are you doing? Go and look at all your other lieutenants.
It really doesn't matter. That profile, the Kappa lieutenant profile, could just not exist, and I don't think any O12 player would really forget it or would bat an eye. They have too many other good lieutenant options.
Yeah, the Raven Eye is the same amount of points. I mean, you could argue that it has worse guns. You could argue it has better guns. It really probably just has better guns.
Yeah, but
they're all forward observers. They're all still immune to shock with mine layers and EM mines, which are scary enough.
Yeah.
The Kappa is the only difference is that how often do you see the Kappa taken?
I think the issue is that we don't see a lot of. We see a lot of vanilla O12, and vanilla O12 doesn't really need the Kappa.
Trista says all the fucking.
However,
Trista says all the fucking time, but Tristan also is an O12 player, so probably yes, the 12-point hacker is probably the only real good thing. Their hackers are the same price as their normal profile because they have the submachine gun.
Yeah,
and they're with 13.
however, in Starmada, they have more of a place.
Yeah, they do. I think they fit really nicely in Starmada, but Starmada's got a lot of stuff that's been added to it that might displace them a little bit, like the Seki droids and other things. So I think they are more of the sort of like quintessential line infantry. They're fucking better than Aguasiles.
Yeah.
They're better than
I'd
Zenshi.
almost even say they're better
I'd
than
put them
Zenshi.
up near Fusiliers.
Yeah.
I couldn't argue for not. They just
are they better than Fusiliers?
No, only because they're one extra point. Are they one extra point on the missile launcher? Because if they're not, then they're better than the Fusiliers.
I think they're cheaper. I think they're cheaper.
How much is a missile launcher for the?
I think they're cheaper than the Trooper.
15-point missile launcher for the Fusilier.
2 points more expensive for the Kappa.
Yeah, so
you're really paying for that whip.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the only reason I put them underneath the Fusiliers because they pay for something that.
However, 12-point hacker, whip 13.
Normally I'd ignore that because they're so far back, but it is O12, and O12 have so much access to mobile repeaters that hacker could be that hacker's a real pain in the ass.
I reckon they're in B. I reckon they're top of B.
I think they're just as good, but their hacker.
I am hating the position of Aguasile.
Yeah.
Worry about that afterwards. Let's finish this up, and then we can.
All right. Next, Silver Star Rovers.
Yeah, our second one. So these guys are here because technically for Torchlight they are the line infantry. You don't get access to. Well, you do get access to Kappas, but I think they're capped at AVA 1. And these are the only guys that really fit the profile of having a decent AVA, sort of defining the group. They are, as far as line, and then they are line troops. As far as the profile goes, they're BS13.
BS13, 3 armor, 6 BTS, 2 wounds.
BTS 6, which is just fucking gross. Skills, courage, dodge +1, which is nice. Immunity, shock, whatever.
And they're all specialists.
Officers. But they're all specialist operatives. Right now, admittedly, that's what makes them so expensive, I think, because of that specialist operative. It means that if you're playing a scenario where you need just like a generic specialist operative to press a button, you've got a potential core in which any of them can do it. Lots of access to firewalls, which is gross because it effectively makes them BTS 9 against hacking. Or is it hacking or any comms attack?
Comms attacks.
Which means
comms
jammers
attacks
as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's fucking gross.
And Ferroware.
True, yeah. Ferroware is just a technical weapon.
No, it's comms attack.
Is it a comms attack? Oh, shit.
Silver Star Rovers are better Zuyongs. That's That's where they go. That's where they belong. Yeah. They are better Zuyongs.
As a Torchlight player, though, do you really think you're going to see a lot of them?
No, but as a person who's played against a lot of IA lists, you never see Zuyongs. No, that's untrue. I think that they might be better Zuyongs only in the fact that they have the BTS 6. I think they're better
Zuyongs, but
think
they're
they're a better
less
profile,
faction
yeah.
defining.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I would put them just behind the Zuyongs only because that you'd see more Zuyongs than you would Rovers. Right. I was tempted to put the Hellblazer in this, but I was like, it's just going to end up in the Warband zone.
Yeah. Speaking of the Warband zone, Varangian Guard.
Obviously, in... Why didn't I put this in Ariadna? I don't know.
I don't know. They're in both. It's fine.
Yeah, they're in both. Look, in Ariadna, they're... sorry, in... not Ariadna. In Ariadna and Cosmo, they're great. In O12, they're also great. They're a little bit less access to them, but I think pretty much everyone takes almost full AVA of them because they are a smoke thrower. They're very good. And the Berserk means that they can trade up massively. Are they on with the Trench Hammer, aren't they?
There is a profile with the Trench Hammer.
Yeah.
And for 1 point more.
Wow, and Fizz 14 on Smoke. That's pretty freaking good because that's one extra Fizz than normal. I'd probably put them behind the Datarazi.
Do you think they're better than Tomorrow?
No.
No, I think that's a pretty reasonable place.
I think for what they get, they're a little bit expensive. I know they're only 12 points, but considering what you get on the McCool and the Datarazi in the Quan Chi, for the points, they're a little bit expensive.
Their link flexibility is good, though. So I think that they actually probably are. In terms of, like, what they do for the faction, like, what they do for...
They are essential, I think, for most O12 that they're in, right? Because they allow you to move up the board and stuff. And in, what's it called? In Cosmo,
yeah,
they're just a great unit.
Yeah, I like them in. I reckon I like them there. I think I've changed my tune. I think they're behind the Datarazi.
Just want to take a look at what they can. They can, again, they can run along with the Unknown Ranger. So if you want a cheap Unknown Ranger thing, right, with Smoke to help him out, yeah,
you can take a Patcher in that as well for a specialist.
Yeah, no, they're great in Cosmo. They're essential in O12. They're just not as good as the top two. That's pretty much it.
So.
Yep.
So, what do we think of our list?
I don't think there's anything. I made an executive decision. I put Aguacilas at the bottom of C.
That's fine.
But I think we've done pretty well here. I don't really see anything that's too out of the.
So I just want to compare it to what I put together.
It's a fairly balanced setup. Like the majority of them are where we expect in the middle. It has a kind of bell curve-ish thing that Kevin always looks for in his tournament stats.
For me, like, it would be more bell curvy if I had a D, but I wasn't.
Correct.
I wasn't going to have us decide whether they were semi failures or complete failures or medium. Couldn't be stuff doing that. But yeah, no, I really do think. Is there any that we felt that maybe need to be moved now that we're looking at it?
We could probably make an argument for a lot of them about shifting them one place to the left or right, just because like one went down early, one went down late, but I don't think it's worth nitpicking that much.
No, I think that's good. Was there any surprises to anybody?
Not in when we constructed it, but the Morats, the Vanguard Infantry, it was weird trying to figure out how I was going to rate them, just because like they're good, but they compete with stuff that's just better.
Yeah, in the faction,
And yeah, in faction, so that comparing something in a vacuum to in faction, and having it drop so low just because of the faction it's in.
I think the only thing that sort of surprised me was the Neferton and the Damaru being in the warband zone, but when you guys mentioned like sort of the roles they fill, yeah, you're kind of right. They're just there to be, I guess, for the most part, either CC or template bitches. All right, the Neferton at the bottom because they're just about the template, and the Damaru are in the middle because they're a little bit better with the template and CC.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's. I think I was relatively inspired by putting the Guangxi into the warband zone, and that sort of helped us put everything else in there.
It helped us better differentiate the warband from the rest.
Yeah, the warband zone from the rest of them.
But it's interesting that I like, for me, I was thinking warbands, just if they don't have smoke, they're not really a warband. But when you guys mentioned like the idea behind like the Neferton and the Damara, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is something you could define as a warband.
All right. Well,
all right, guys. So we will post all of this up, so you guys can see, so everybody can see our final list. We will also post up the link to the template that I've made, so that you guys listening at home can respond to this episode and tell us what you think our list probably should have looked like, and we will feel free to very much disagree.
And remember, when you are filling out your own, I didn't get Kusatsu and Damaru into S tier, so don't think that your faction is just the best because they're your faction. So
yes, I was. I mean, remember, I tried to get the Dakini lower than S.
Yeah, so, true.
And I love the Dakinis.
They are S tier.
Yeah, it's fine. It works for me. But yeah, so thank you, Josh. Thank you, Nick, for, I was going to say joining me here tonight, but I'm joining you just as much as you're joining me. And thank you for everybody who's listening. I've been Jacob.
I've been Josh.
And I've been Nick.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.